So, hello, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that were in the morning session as presenters, I hope you got to grab something to eat. Very nice to see all of you, and I hope you had a nice break. I want to put out a few rules before we start, and then we're going to have welcome remarks and updates from the executive officers and the Chancellor. First of all, we're going to try to keep everybody on mute to cut back on the feedback. You can mute yourself, but a person, if she sees that your mic comes on, she may flip you over to mute. We are recording sessions. We're trying to do that individually, and also we're going to try to have one large session we can put on the website. We are taking questions through the chat, and we're going to make every attempt to address them. We have a couple of people monitoring. Mark Paula did that for us this morning, and I don't know if he's going to be on again this afternoon, but we'll keep track of those. We ask for your patience with technology. We hope all goes well. You know from experience, having used it with your classes, sometimes things go right and sometimes they don't. This time we have faculty throughout the 5 sessions that we're offering. We've included Europe. We have continental sites across the United States, and we've got Fort Hood, and we have service area. So there's a lot of people jumping on and jumping off, and we hope that all goes well. If you are not from Central Campus or the service area, we are going to address some things that are needing some attention here in this area, but it may not exactly match what you do at the sites. If there's something that we're covering that does not match your own policies and processes, because you have to do them differently because of where you are, I mean, feel free to get up, go get a Coke, get a sandwich or whatever. I think people will be coming and going on this session as they hear things that they need, and that's perfectly okay. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jim Yiannopoulos, our Chancellor, who's going to give some welcome remarks and some updates. Chancellor?
Thank you, Dean Anderson, and welcome everybody back to school. Well, at home. I'm working from home. I know that most of you are at your home office working from there. So just wanted to welcome you back. A couple of things have happened here. First of all, we just had our employee service awards ceremony, excellence ceremony, and we had 3 faculty members who have provided 25 years of service each to the institution. Dr. Salvato and Miss McNally, and Mr. Weitzel. So congratulations to the 3 of them. And there are 15 or so more that had 15 years or more. So I think Dr. Ady might mention some folks in her remarks. But anyway, thank you for your years of service, and thank all the faculty for everything you do every day. It's without you, we couldn't be where we are. We couldn't be the institution we are. And you know that, and you need to hear that more often. So I'll certainly let you know that. We had a virtual graduation for the first time, so that turned out really well. You know, Dr. Burns was our guest speaker, and he's the superintendent of Coppers Cove ISD. He was on the board of trustees for a minute, and he's fantastic and does a really great job, and is a huge supporter of Central Texas College. I can tell you that. All 4 of his boys went to CTC, and so he is a true believer in us. So delivery modes, as you know, we have our multiple delivery modes, which are online, and our blended classes, and then you all have created a thing called the virtual learning, synchronous virtual learning platform, where it looks like what we're doing today. So. And I know there's some alternatives in there, and I know that some of the speakers are going to talk about how to use that technology. So But again, it was your initiative, and it was your idea, and it was your hard work that made that happen. And I just want you to know that we appreciate that and thank you. You know, my decision was to make the safe for the campus, meaning you and all of our students. And so in March, you know, we turned everybody and said, well, now we got to go home and work from home. I had no idea. I guess at the time, my idea was we'd do the blended classes or we'd do totally online. You all came up with that synchronized virtual learning, which really saved the day for us. And there are many institutions who are trying to get that together, and they still are having trouble with that presentation. So hats off to you for making that happen. And I know you'll continue that. And I know that we'll continue using that in the future. That's not something that's going to go away. That wasn't just here for COVID. And COVID is here. So again, I stress to you, please be careful. It is more contagious now, spreading faster now than it was 8 months ago. So, and many of you have friends and family who have been affected. And so please wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance, and just be careful. It's out there. I would also recommend that all of you, if you haven't already, get on a list at one of the providers to get your inoculation. I know that many of the, like HEB is doing it here, and they're going to have, I think, Walgreens and CVS and some other places and the counties or so forth. So anyway, get on that list to get that inoculation. Well, let's get back to some sort of sense of normal. As far as campuses go, I want you to know that we're doing everything we can to keep our enrollments up. Our enrollments are down. That's not a secret. You know that. I know that. But we're trying to keep them up, and if we can build them and keep them going up, then we bring more people back. We bring faculty back. We increase our folks that deal with students, and that would be primarily you all, and then some support folks. So anyway, we're looking at partnerships like with Ford and Kubota and Rockwell. I know that Dean Ady and her team and Teresa Chavez and her team are working on some of those, along with Ted Gonzalez, who is sort of the puppeteer and all of that. He's pulling all the strings, many strings that go into that effort. So right now we have the Ford Transition Program, which is, if you haven't heard, we started our first cohort, and these are soldiers who come over and they spend 40 hours a week for 16 weeks with us and with the dealership that they're going to go to work for in Texas. They get through that program. They will be a technician level 2. They'll leave us, take the toolkit that TWC has purchased, and go to work in that dealership. So the contract is between us, the Texas Workforce Commission, Ford Hood, and Ford. They're important in it. So anyway, Ford. Advisory boards, I know that many of you have continued to push your advisory boards. That is crucial to what we're doing. That is crucial to our accreditation. You've got to make those advisory boards come together and take minutes, take notes, have those documented, and provide those. Dr. Garrett will, and her team at some point will be reaching out to you for our next 5-year reaffirmation, and they're going to need that information. So, please keep good minutes, keep logs, keep a list of people, the dates you attended, and so forth. That's very important to us. And it's also important that we hear from those industry people and those partners as to what do we need to be teaching for these young folks to get a job? Are we teaching the right things? If not, they're not going to come to school with us. So pay attention to what the needs are in the industry, and if we have to alter our curriculum, we will need to do that. So please continue. And I know that all of you do that. So thank you again for that. Participation in grants. We have a lot of grants. I know that Mr. Sandoval and some others are going to be reaching out to you. Ms. Chavez will be reaching out to you. We depend upon grants. Grants are sort of a bread and butter for us. They help pave the way. They give opportunities to us. And so think out of the box, come up with some ideas. Nothing is sacred when it comes to those ideas. The more we have, the better the better we can do it, the better you all can do it. It's your ideas I'm looking for. You know, I have 15 ideas, but you guys have hundreds. And so please share those with your leadership, and let's get some more grants that help offset the costs that we have here. And they provide some great services. We have a couple of grants coming on right now, and Dr. Ady will talk about those in a minute. Virtual faculty training opportunities. We have that. This is one of those. We're going to have more of that. I know that I have tasked Dr. Ady and Dean Anderson to come up with something for the faculty. You know, many times the faculty gets overlooked in the light of things, and we're certainly not overlooking you, and we want to continue the great relationship we have with you. And also, you know, your initiative for that virtual learning platform, that was yours, but you all have many, many more ideas that you could share with us to get us to becoming a destination institution, which is one of the things that I wanted to mention, and I'll mention that in just a minute. But please look for training opportunities, and I know that they're going to do some things with you I think you'll be excited about. So anyway, turns a minute to the service area. And our service area, as you know, goes all the way out to Mason, Menard, on the other side of Brady, all the way up to Hyco, and you know, all the way down to Florence, and then down further south to Marble Falls and Fredericksburg. So that's pretty big. It's about 10,000 square miles. That's bigger than some states. And so we've got like 5 coordinators out there that try to do all that, along with Mark Paulette and some of his folks. So when they call you and they need help, they need help. You know, they don't have just a single job out there. There's one person at those sites, and they have multiple sites they have to deal with, and they have to do it all. They have to be the counselor, they have to be the advisor, they have to be the mentor, they have to be the registrar, they have to be the bookseller, the collection of money. They have to do all of that, along with getting along with all the people out there who might be upset because of something going wrong and they think it's our fault. So anyway, please help them if you can. We're expanding. We just had our SAC COC visit, our offsite visit. They visited many sites. They visited Fort Rucker, Alabama. They visited Bethesda, Maryland. They visited in Egypt. They visited Fredericksburg and Marble Falls and Gatesville. And not only did they visit them, it was done virtually. So we were one of the first schools to get the virtual visit by SAC COC. I think it went very well. I think they were very impressed with the way we operate. At least that's what they said. And so, you know, they didn't just talk to us. I mean, they talked to faculty, they talked to students. We had to go round all them up and bring them in, even though it might have been a nighttime, a date, or time when they didn't have class. We had to come in anyway and to talk to these SACS team. And so, again, thank you, and thank them when you get a chance. They did a great job on that. And when the SACS teams come in, and they'll be coming to campus sooner or later, you'll get to visit with them. They're not coming in here to pat you on the back and tell you what a great job you're doing on all these things. They're coming in here looking for things. They're like the IG. They're going to find something wrong. You all know better than I do that every one of us has some deficiencies in our programs and in our operations. And but they're here to find them. And then when they find them, they'll expand on them. So just be ready to try to do everything you can to pay attention to what's going on with Southern Association. One of the things in a recent visit that was brought up to us, and I think Dr. Garrett will cover it a little more extensively, was that in the student outcomes area, and that we hadn't documented properly. And so we're going to have to do that and get that done by April. So when she or Stephanie Legree Roberts and her team reaches out to you to get information so we can document that, please help them. They're not calling you for their health. They're calling you because it's the health of the institution, and we've got to get those things accomplished and get them turned in. So please be on the lookout for that. We haven't received our letter yet, and it's driving Dr. Garrett crazy. She's pulling all our hair out. But we did receive one earlier today. She'll talk about on one of our programs, and so I'm going to let her get into that with you. That's kudos to all of you for that effort, and she'll talk to you about that. Continental Campus, Fort Rucker has a new site director, Fort Bragg has a new site director, and so when they call and they ask for help, please help them. I know you do, and I know you will, and I appreciate you doing it. But again, remember, they're a single person in the middle of nowhere representing Central Texas College, and when I say that, they're representing every one of your departments. They're representing every one of our functions that we do here, and so they certainly can use your mentorship. We're moving also in those sites to connect sites together using Blackboard and so forth, so we can run smaller. So if we have 2 or 3 people at one site, 4 or 5 at another site, we can put a class together trying to capitalize on those enrollments. We really need the enrollments. Continental also has virtual graduations, and so if you're asked to help and participate, please do. I know that you'll enjoy doing that, and anyway, you'll see more as we move through those virtual graduations. Fort Hood just had a virtual education fair. I think they maybe have one come up. They have a SAP program, Transition Assistance Program, that ends with 19 graduates on the 24th. That graduation will be virtual, and there'll be a couple others in there. So Dr. Ady or Dean Hare will be reaching out to you to let you know about those and what we should do there. Just a couple other things, Dr. Carter is gonna speak in a moment concerning COVID and where we are and what we're doing. I'm not gonna get into all that. I know that all of you have paid attention to what's going on in the news, and like I said earlier, you've had family and friends who've been affected. So she'll mention a few things about that. One of the things I really want to talk to you about is where are we going and what are we doing? I mentioned 5 years ago, we need to become a destination campus. I didn't envision that we'd have COVID on top of us and everything would go home. I didn't envision that the military would change all of the parameters on how they do education, and which they're doing. And they have done. The Army's created Army University. That's taken away a lot of our enrollments. They have limited the number of semester hours a student can take using as TA each year. 16. Well, if you take 16, it takes you 4 years to get a 2-year degree. It kind of doesn't make sense. So there's just a lot of things working against us out there. The Navy now has ended that program we've had for 35 years on board ship, and they have gone to a virtual learning platform with virtual counselors. They've done away with all their education centers. I don't know how you do that and then run an education program, but they're doing it, and they're creating a community college of the Navy, which we've tried to be involved in, and we are a little bit. So there's that, and so and the Air Force already has community college of the Air Force. So things are changing out there, and they think they can do education better than we can. So, but what it's done to us, it's affected us, and because of that downturn in those military enrollments, we've had to kind of reshuffle and readjust and rethink where we're at and where we're going. If you haven't been on campus, I can tell you it's absolutely gorgeous on campus. Mark Harmson and Mr. Duggar and his folks and their team has done a magnificent job of putting everything back in place, filling up all the holes. The last time you saw it, most of you, there were concrete everywhere, holes everywhere. The roads were in bad shape. There were barriers up. You couldn't see around the corner. So all that's gone. It's a beautiful, beautiful park. And I think when you get out there, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really gorgeous. That's on the top layer. On the bottom layer, where I think we need to be going to make it a destination campus, is with you. You are crucial to us becoming that destination campus. I want us to be the best school that we can become. I want us to be the best community college in Texas. That doesn't mean it's not the hardest, okay? That doesn't make you best. It just makes you hard, and not the worst. I want you to be the best. I want you to be the best at what you do. I want students to be calling us on the phone, begging us to get in classes that are full. Every class is full. That's my goal, is to get all those classrooms filled up, have all of you all have full classes, have hired twice the number of full-time faculty that we currently have. That's really where we need to go. We need to be the educational trainer for the state of Texas and for the United States, if you will. So it's on your shoulders. I'm asking, please come up with ideas, share those ideas, come up with new innovative kinds of initiatives that we can go after. Maybe there's some of that grant money I talked about that we could tap into and make those kind of things happen. So everything's possible, and it's really possible with your minds. You're the smartest people we have on this campus, bar none, and I really want to tap into that, and I really want to encourage you to step out and help us become the best educational institution that we can become. And I want students that want to come here, not that they have to come here, not because, well, it's the only other place I can go that I can afford, or it's the 13th grade. You know, you hear all that kind of stuff, and I don't want to hear that stuff. I want to hear, hey, I want to go to CTC because I'm going to learn something out there, and I'm going to learn it when I leave and I go get a job. It's going to help me in my job, or it's going to help me to transfer to a four-year university and get an advanced degree. That's what I want to hear, and I know that that's what you want to hear. So I'm really counting on you this year to help us build that bridge. So at this time, I think I'm pretty much finished. I'm trying to not take up too much time. So Dean Anderson, I'll turn this back to you, and thank you so much. And thank you, faculty.
Thank you, Chancellor. We appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, next is Dr. Adie, Deputy Chancellor for Instruction and Workforce Initiatives. Dr. Adie?
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. I use that throughout the whole month of January, so I haven't seen most of you. Happy New Year, and let's make sure it's a happy and a healthy and a prosperous one. The Chancellor mentioned the Service Award ceremony we had right before we went on break, and what a great virtual event that was. And of course, you recognized some of the 25-year full-time faculty recipients. And I would like to mention a few that we had. We had some, let me make sure I'm looking at this right. We also had some 15-year recipients that are full-time faculty. We had Jennifer Cabanis and Marlene Henry. We had Bertha Kondrack, Barbara Little. I know, Barbara, I think you're on this session. I saw you. Ronnie Turner. We had then with 10 years, Audrey Cruz Seeley, and I think I saw you too, Sean Grigsby and Bobby Waddles. So congratulations. We are happy. We are excited that you're part of CTC and you have been, because it definitely shows when you have been here a while, the way you contribute and the knowledge that you've gained, and moreover the knowledge that you impart. So thank you for sticking with us through the good and the bad times, it seems. We also had the virtual graduation in December, which was a really great event. And so many of you got together as groups in your departments and you sent little videos cheering on the students, congratulating them. And that was really, really great. I know students look up to you. They look at you for guidance, to be guided along their degree. They respect you for what you do in the classroom and online. And so it was a very nice touch that you did that, and much appreciated. I don't think it was just the students that appreciated it. I can tell you, I'm sure it was parents too, but certainly everyone watching it, staff members enjoyed it. The Chancellor mentioned a little bit about industry partnerships. And so if you are at vocational technical department, please reach out to the businesses that are here in this area, make connections with them. Let us know, let your dean know, me know how we can support you to foster that relationship. Those relationships have been very beneficial to us. Of course, with those, we have connections to get graduates into the workforce after they finish up with us. We also had some instances where businesses donated equipment to us or loaned us equipment, which helped our students learn. And also through these connections, we have gained advisory board members. And as you know, that role is really vital. They share with us what they're looking for, what skills students need to have. And so on that note, there were a lot of advisory boards Thank you for inviting the leadership to it. It was great to participate. I try to make as many as I can. And it's always remarkable to learn more about your program and really get to know those industry partners. So I really, really enjoy that. And I thank you for doing that. We have different conversations going on with Kubota, with Rockwell, with different partners. And so we never know what ends up in a good relationship or program, whether it's a transition program, new college program. So it's good to know, though, that there are partners out there that want to be part of us and that we connect with. As far as instruction this spring, I think Dean Anderson has been working with you to get some face-to-face courses, probably more in a blended format, starting after spring. There was a survey of faculty and also of students, and whereas students said they much appreciate the SVL mode, we also had some students that said, it is just not working with me. I don't have good technology or good internet connection, and I really don't think I can return until there's classroom instruction. So I think maybe we can give them the best of both worlds. So today I looked at enrollments where we are. Course enrollments, we're 6% down, student headcount 7% down, unduplicated headcount 10, and semester credit hours 6. So I think in the fall it was double digits. So it's a little bit better than it was. And it's definitely difficult to recruit. I know in normal times, all of you participate in college night. You go to the high schools, to the road shows, whatever you're asked to do, wherever you're supposed to be, that's where you go. And it is somewhat more difficult, even though there are a few virtual events taking place. It is certainly more difficult to recruit now during this pandemic. Let's see. The Chancellor mentioned earlier the grant opportunities, and I know several departments have reached out. I know there are some that every year they request equipment through Perkins Grant, and it comes through. So what a terrific opportunity. I know nursing applied for an NIGP grant, which they received, and that also deals with equipment. And most recently, in a partnership with Temple College and with Texas A&M Central Texas, we received the Texas Reskilling Grant. So this is starting off really effective now. And so with this grant, students who receive financial aid can use those funds as to make up for any tuition that is not covered by the grant. So, or by Pell Grant. So if there are any outstanding balances as far as tuition, that money can be used for it. And so our challenge will be to find students who need money because there is a lot of money there, but there are even more parameters that are set on these grants. And so sometimes it's not as easy as you may think to give money away, but we're certainly working on that piece. We have some virtual training opportunities. I sent several emails to Deans Anderson and Hare about NISOD, about TCCTA that's doing a virtual conference. And this week, I think it's tomorrow, I'm having a discussion with the deans about the Academy of Teaching Excellence. That is a proposal that Dean Anderson submitted, then the pandemic happened, and so we're reviving it. So it will be coming your way, and I think it's pretty exciting, and it will present great opportunities. As far as the service area, we have, of course, we always reach out to our sites, and even though we have 4 site directors, I want you to know that we have more than 4 service area sites, because each one of these site directors manages multiple sites. And so most recently, we have connected with Fredericksburg on a nursing program, which is currently on hold because we have to find clinical spaces that are available, which are very rare during the pandemic. In Marble Falls, we have reached out to stakeholders, and they are really interested in some non-credit programs. So reskilling community members is top priority for them. And thanks to Teresa Chavez and her team, there are quite a few programs we have that we could funnel these students into. So there are conversations going on as far as what the needs are in the service area and how we can meet those, what we already have or what we can develop. In addition, Gatesville is in need of community courses. They, as in the city, did a study, and the superintendent there at the high school, at the school, took the lead to say, you know, we want to establish an evening program for community members to pursue a general studies degree. We want them to start, we want to make it available, we want to present a track to them, and because this area is impoverishing, it's getting a little bit more difficult to find qualified workforce. So of course, we're excited. For us, these are great opportunities, and if you come across some, please let us know. We want to explore them. At the Gatesville prison, we resumed instruction in somewhat smaller groups. Most of the units have opened back up, and so good for us and good for our faculty that they are able to go back and teach in groups. In the Continental campus, as you may know, our offices are primarily located at education centers. So came the spring, a lot of these sites closed down when the pandemic started. Then they reopened in the summer and the fall, and then a few of them closed back down after the holidays when the pandemic got worse. So it is very difficult, but our site directors are very creative. They participate in virtual graduations, virtual fairs. They have all become very proficient in telecommuting, kind of like you, and set up their home offices and pivot back and forth between office and home, whatever is available to them. And a couple of days ago, Dean Hare and I looked at enrollments for the Continental sites, and we found a few sites that maintained or even increased enrollment. So we want to explore more. What exactly did they do? I don't know what it is, but we need to find out to see if there's anything that we can duplicate here. And as you know, most of those sites already do Blackboard Collaborate courses. That's pretty much like SVL. They have been doing it for several years because the classes there traditionally are much smaller than on campus. And so you can connect several sites that way. And it seemed to make sense, and it's still making sense, especially now during the pandemic. Fort Hood has also been participating in education fairs. And the SAP program is something that's kicking off. What the Chancellor mentioned earlier is a combined graduation of all cohorts from last year. Normally, we have an in-person graduation of this SAP transition program for soldiers. And this year, and so this month, we will have a combined ceremony for all of those cohorts. Of course, it will be virtual, and I think it'll be a great event. And we'd love to see all of you there. I want to close by saying we do appreciate your input. The Chancellor said you're the smartest people that we have, and I agree. And you're smart, and you're also experts in your field. So what that means is you know where there's demand, what we can try, what's new. And so we definitely want your input. We want you to be creative. We want to hear what ideas you have through your connection with your maybe peers, either here at the institution, maybe at other institutions. And so I know you have great ideas, and that's, I think, how we have gotten to the point where we are now. So thank you very much for not just instructing our students, but for advising them, for participating in events, for supporting them really all the way. We truly appreciate that. And I hope that 2021 will be a year of healing with a vaccine on its way, and maybe a year of hope that some kind of normalcy will come back to us. I know it's been stressful on all of us. I think I can say that collectively. So let's make 2021 a great year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Adie. Appreciate your remarks. I want to just remind, I think we have a couple of people that are not muted. We haven't had any feedback, but who knows when that will start. So just check yourself, make sure you're muted. And next we have Dr. Garrett, Deputy Chancellor for Academic and Student Success. Dr. Garrett?
Oh, good afternoon. Everybody hear me okay? Yep, good, good. Thank you, Dean Anderson. Appreciate the introduction. Um, I would have never thought that we'd be still doing this 9, 10 months after we all had to go back home. But here we are, and I have to thank you, all of our staff at CTC, especially IT. And this morning I feel terrible because I left out Sharon Davis and Deep because they were also very instrumental in moving us quickly into an environment that we could still continue to support students, both in their learning and their general support throughout these months. And you guys, you truly did move mountains to shift so quickly and have done an amazing job. So thank you so much with all of the, not only teaching virtually, but all the support that you gave the students to help my departments with them as well. As you know, a couple of years ago, we started doing a lot of our student support remotely. Oops, sorry about that. I should turn that off. Remotely, so to support the students where they work. And all the things that you've done over the past years to start online learning really put us in a good situation and a good place for what we had to do in March and over the summer. My team expanded on that, and they utilized the tools that were provided from IT to go totally virtual with their advising, and used the chat features and all kinds of wonderful opportunities that were presented to help support our students with virtual tutoring. And as Dr. A mentioned, the virtual graduation. Barbara Merlot's team did an amazing job. They continue to do incredible things that allow our students to have access to information. You guys put up virtual sessions. It's unbelievable how we have come together to provide all of the things that are necessary for our students to achieve their goals. So thank you for that. But at the same time, we've learned a lot. And I really believe that our normal has changed. I think moving forward, we'll always be doing things a little bit different from what we did before. And I really say that because I see it. I see how students are very pleased with our virtual tutoring and our virtual advising. And I also just read a study that 2/3 of the students that were surveyed, 68% actually, said that they expect that higher ed will be different moving forward, and that they really want the flexibility that they've been afforded these past 9 months, 8 months. They want to come back face to face. They like the face to face, but they also want the ability to have a little more, like I said, flexibility. They want modality flexibility. They want to be able to have a class face to face, a class online. They want things that I guess they're expecting moving forward. So the ultimate end of this, and of course, virtual student support services. That was a big one. They want to have that ability. They don't want to have to go stand in line to see an advisor anymore. They want to do it virtually. They want an appointment. They want to get to the advisor. They want to take care of business and move on, all from the comfort of their own home. So bottom line, what the result of the survey was that we when we think about going back isn't necessarily going to be what it was. And that can be an improvement. That definitely can, but it can also be scary for all of us because we keep thinking we want to go back to normal. Well, I think normal has changed forever. But that being said, all of the things that we're doing to support students have been wonderful. And we continue to come up with new and great things that will help them through this time. As you know, our student orientation had to go virtual, and that's taking place on Thursday, and as well as Welcome Week. Well, when on our orientations, before we did, when we were doing them face to face, you all did these cluster meetings with the students where you gave them information about your programs, the expectations, and what they can do with their life when they completed it. and that was wonderful. Well, we're doing those virtual, so thank you to all of you that are participating on Thursday in the virtual cluster meetings to help our students decide on what program they want or change to your program. I think it's a sales time for you, right? To recruit more students into your programs. But I really appreciate that. We're calling them interactive cluster events. So students can talk to you and ask questions. So I think that's awesome. Our welcome week is a 2-week welcome week, and there's all kinds of fun activities. I'm just wondering, and I won't be able to see, but I hope a lot of you did the 2 truths and a lie. I know I did, and it'll be interesting to see how many students guess my lie. We all used Ellen's as an example to go by, so thank you, Ellen, for being one of the first to do it and putting it out there. I appreciate that, I think it'll be fun. There's so many. There's all kinds of virtual events. I can't even remember all of them off the top of my head, but please go out to the website and see 2 weeks worth of welcome week events we're doing virtually. So these are the things that my team have moved forward. And of course, as Dr. Ady mentioned, our wonderful virtual graduation. That's something that I was very sad to see that we had to do it that way, because graduation is the most important time for me. I think that, and I'm sure it is for you, that's the highlight of my year when we have graduation. So while I'm glad we were able to do it, I was also still very disappointed. As additionally helping our students, we've got funding available to them. And as we've had for many years, we do have the Perkins Grant that will provide childcare assistance to workforce students, as well as book lending. So if you teach workforce classes, please notify your students or remind them that funding is still available for childcare assistance, and we can also do book lending programs. The biggie is the CARES Act. We have already dispersed over $1.2 million directly to close to 1,000 students this past year. And we still have $1 million more that we can give through the end of April. We're giving $1,500 to every student right now. So every student that applies and is eligible, I should say. So please ask your students to apply. More than likely, if they're in all online classes, they won't be eligible because it is for a disruption in campus operations due to COVID-19, and the federal government doesn't consider online classes to have been a disruption because they wouldn't have been disrupted if they were taken online. But SVL, what we call synchronous virtual and blended, we can put a caveat on those that it was originally face-to-face, and we're moving those to online. So I please just have them apply. We'll figure out who can get it and who can't. It'll be a $1,500 gift from you to them. So please ask them to do that. Let's see, what else did I miss? Oh, yes. Another way of supporting our students is we've done early alerts for many, many years. And last year we changed the name to retention alerts because we wanted that information we wanted to be able to support the students at any point during the semester. So by you turning in a retention alert, my staff will help contact your students on top of what you're already doing to help support them. So please take that into consideration. If you want additional help with reaching out, we can try to get them into tutoring or see what other help they need to help them be successful in your classes. So please take care of those retention alerts whenever you can. What else did I have? All right, the Chancellor alluded to some good news from SACS earlier. Every 10 years, we have to go through a reaffirmation process, and our next reaffirmation is in 2025. But in between, so the year 2020 was our 5th year interim report. So halfway in between each of our reaffirmations, we have to do an interim report. And there's really 3 components to this 5th year. One is the interim report, which is about 20 some odd principles that we have to write to, and they check to make sure we're still on track and we're we're doing things that align with the principles of accreditation. The QEP that we initiated during our reaffirmation in 2015, they wanted to see how we're doing on that, and what were the results, what we figured out, what we learned, and any off-campus instructional sites that were added they want to visit. Well, when I first did this presentation this morning, we hadn't heard about any of them. And then during the presentation, I received a notification from SACS that our 5th year interim report, we came out 100% clean on. They checked the box. We did good with that. So yay on that one. Our QEP, they were pleased with what we learned from implementing our QEP. So our QEP, we checked the box on our QEP. So that's 2 down. The third one was our off-campus instructional site visit. And the Chancellor mentioned a little bit about this earlier. We had a committee that wanted to visit 6 of our locations. And virtually, they visited Gatesville High School, Bethesda, Fredericksburg, Marble Falls, Fort Rucker, and Egypt. And the site directors at all of those locations did a wonderful job taking them around with their little iPhones and touring and showing them the buildings. And they were very impressed with our operations, how we work together to support them from the central campus, what they do at each place. And that was clearly defined that we did a good job there. Now, we have not received the report from them on each of those principles and where we stand, but they did, I want to say the word ding us, they did get us, as the Chancellor mentioned, on our program level student learning outcomes. A lot of our outcomes that we presented and that we talked about with them, they considered institutional, not student level, what a student would learn at the end. And I know Dean Anderson is going to talk to you all a little bit about this in a session in a few minutes. But my team, Dean LeGree Roberts and her team, since we found out about this in November, have been working on a new plan so that we can get these program level student learning outcomes established. She's going to ask that for each program, we have 3 program level student learning outcomes, what the student will need to do, be able to do when they finish your program. And for 3 years, you'll work on these and assess them. And then at the end of 3 years, you'll turn in that data to help us know what we did, how we improved, or whether what you did didn't work. That's okay. Just like the QEP, when we turned that in, much of what we reported in the QEP is what we set out to do wasn't feasible. It did not really truly work. So the plan was great, but in the end, we realized that the students weren't going to respond to the faculty, that the student in that area, the students felt like they were being penalized by being put into this group. There were all kinds of feedback. And when we documented that, it was okay. It was okay that we did not achieve what we thought we were going to achieve. It's just that we tried and what we did do. So that's the same thing with these program level outcomes, these student learning outcomes. They want to know what we're trying, what we're going to do to improve, the data behind it, that sort of thing. So when you develop these, they will go through the CRC process for documentation, the Curriculum Review Committee, and it will be documented on the Institutional Accountability and Curriculum Support website. And those will be the formal program learning outcomes for each of your programs. And that's important because during this review, they were asking, well, where's the list? Where's your list? Well, we didn't really have a list of what you all were doing from your program levels. Everybody was doing different things. So it wasn't what we needed to provide to them. We're going to get on track and we're going to fix this for our reaffirmation in 2025. So stay tuned. She'll be providing more information, and I'm sure the department chairs have heard quite a bit about this from Dean Anderson already. Other than that, I think that's about all I had to share with you, except thank you. I wish you a wonderful semester, and anyone on my team is ready, willing, and able to help and support you in any way we can. Please either contact me, any of my deans, any of my team. We want to be there for you. We want to be there for the students That's what we are, all about student success. So thank you very much and have a great, great semester.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. I have to say that everyone in your area, from the dean on down, I know I said this at the previous session, but I'm going to say this in every session, that we appreciate what they do for us. I know for Kirsten and me, we interface with all levels of people under you, and they are always responsive, and they help our office so much, and we in turn try to help the departments. And so they're invaluable to us, and they've done a great job, and we appreciate them being on the front lines, so to speak, throughout the fall, being here trying to meet with students. They have not worked from home, in many of them. And so just please say thank you to them, that we're aware of what they do, and we appreciate what they do so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will definitely share that.
Okay. And thank you for coming today. We appreciate it. Next, we have Dr. Carter, Deputy Chancellor for Finance and Administration. Dr. Carter?
Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome back. I hope you all had an enjoyable, restful, much-deserved 2-week holiday break. I'm going to be brief. I have a 2 o'clock webinar, and while I sit on the webinar, I'm also going to listen to a press conference. So, so I'll dive right in. The first, before I continue, I said I was going to say this every time I talk to you guys, that you all are the real heroes of Central Texas College, and thank you for all that you do in supporting our students. I still go back to March 11th when the pandemic was declared, was it the 11th or 13th, excuse me, and how you all took a week to regroup and continue this semester. I've been with the college 29 years, and that will forever be etched in my memory. So thank you. Real quick, I have a few items. Fiscal year 2019-2020 annual financial report. We were able to present to the board on at their December meeting a clean audit, and it's a collective effort. If you watched the meeting that day, you will have seen Bob Liberty give his remarks, as he always does. It is a collective, college-wide effort when we obtain a clean report, because it's what we do from September 1 to August 31st that results in no findings. So if sometimes we give you a hard way to go, so to speak, throughout the year with purchases and requisitions and account numbers and different things, policy and procedure, that's the end result. And this year, it resulted in a performance award, which we did not see that coming. But when the numbers all shook out, we were able to do that. So we thank the board and the chancellor for that generous gift. 87th legislative session begins today and runs through May 31. To date, there have been 1,409 bills filed. They've been dropping since November 9th. Mr. Sandoval, Rudy Sandoval, the college's chief legislative and governmental affairs officer, has provided the DCs with close to 30 pages of bills that are potentially relevant to the college. So we're going to pick and choose what we believe he needs to track for us, and we'll stay on top of that so that there are no surprises at the conclusion of the session. COVID-19. Just to give you some numbers for the college, and then I'll share some information locally as it relates to Bell County. Since June 12th, when we actually began our second phase, back to campus, we've had 36 positive tests. We've had 36 cases, and that's a worldwide number. And I attribute that to the cooperation and compliance of everyone, especially you all who interact with our students, those of you who are on campus. in following the protocols that we've set out and following the self-reporting requirements. That has been extremely helpful. It's been very time-consuming and labor-intensive for Dean Starkey and her staff, and Miss Jordan, and particularly Jackie Thomas, but and they didn't get any additional help. We didn't hire people, but it has literally become a full-time job on top of what they're already doing. So thank you for your diligence and the self-reporting and communicating student activity to them, as well as, faculty activity. So that's where we are. We had 6 cases that we reported last week, and we expected to have some numbers when we came back, just simply because of the holiday. Bell County, as most of you know, is currently at level 1 in terms of the COVID-19 threat level, and that is an uncontrolled community transmission. What do they call that? They call it an uncontrolled community transmission. Excuse me. That's the definition of level 1. As a matter of fact, Bell County, the Judge Blackburn will be holding a press conference this afternoon. It's my understanding to talk about vaccine sites. So there was going to be a webinar, but now there's a press conference. So our several members of our COVID-19 task force will be tuning into that to get some more information. As of today, there have been 15,499 cases in Bell County. Just to put this in perspective, and the daily increase in the 24 hours prior to that number being reported was 494. So as you can see, the numbers are increasing, and so I would urge you to be extremely, extremely careful. Remain diligent. I know some of us are experiencing COVID fatigue, but we must continue to do the things that we're doing. Just another bit of information on that from our local area. We are now in the 14th day of area hospitals being at 15% or more of COVID patients. And so, that number triggers the governor's recent executive order. And so we're seeing where certain establishments, particularly restaurants, are having to go back to 50% capacity. So again, be careful. Student and Employee Assistance Program continues to serve our students remotely using a HIPAA-approved telehealth service software, if you will. Please continue to, if you notice any of your students in distress or they come to you, please remind them that we do have that resource available. The pandemic, for those who, some were having issues with depression and anxiety prior to the pandemic, some as a result of the pandemic. And so it's a very challenging time for a lot of our students and our staff and faculty. So they are there to help. We've got Dr. Mahone Lewis and Ms. Nadia Villanova. They are happy to help. So please refer your students and anyone on your staff. And if you need to talk to either of them, please do so. They enjoy what they do, and they're here to help. Consolidated Appropriations Act. During the break, you all were probably watching intently, waiting for the Appropriations Act to get signed for the additional COVID relief. Well, what that means for us as a college, there's been some additional funding added to the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. Last year, that same fund provided close to $4.5 million to the institution, half of which we were able to use to purchase technology and PPE equipment, as well as provide the emergency aid that Dr. Garrett talked about a few minutes ago. So specifically, Congress allocated $23 billion in emergency relief aid to colleges and universities and to students. So I'm scheduled to attend a webinar in 1 minute. I'm going to jump on and see what they're talking about in terms of parameters, the intent, when we can expect for the money to be released, what it will cover, etc. So more to come on that. It'll be dispersed through the Department of Education as it was last year. So again, thank you for all that you do for our students. Take care, stay healthy. I hope you have a wonderful semester. If If I or my staff, finance and administration, can do anything to support you, please contact us directly. We are here to help. We're here to support. As Bob Liberty often says, we're the skeleton. We hold you up. Just let us know what you need. Take care. Have a great semester.
Dr. Carter, thank you. I know you have to hop on to your other stuff, but please express our appreciation to your people and the good work that they do, and thank them for keeping us safe, the maintenance and the facilities people all doing all the cleanup, and we appreciate it so much. Thank
Will
you.
do. Thank you for having me. Have a
Thank
good day.
you. Thank you. So I know a lot of you may have not been directly involved in a lot of the COVID outbreaks that we've had. It's true that what she said, we only had 36 positive cases, but actually we had a lot of direct exposures, which following our protocol means we have to shut down the class. You know, everything has to be cleaned. People have to go get tested. And I think when we talked to Julie in the last session, she said she probably processed about 500 students. I'm sure Jackie Thomas has also a large number of employees that she has processed, but it's just evidence that our protocols work. And that, and I want to echo what Dr. Carter said about how responsive the faculty have been and how important that has been for especially the face-to-face programs. If they have any face-to-face component, that has really been important in keeping the numbers down. And so I know she thanks you, but I would like to add my thanks also. So, okay. Next, we have Debbie Prescott. She's going to do a presentation on best practices in synchronous virtual learning, lecture, I guess. And she gave it last session. It was really interesting. So, Debbie, you ready?
I'm ready. So it'll take me a couple of seconds to get things ready to share. So if you want to stretch, or if something fell asleep, stand up and wake it up. You have a minute.
So this morning we enjoyed watching people's pets. There were pets like, there was a cat draped over the sofa. It's kind of interesting to see. I'm sure you see that with your students if you teach synchronous virtual. You get to see a lot of things going on. And I really, if I could jump through the screen and grab one of those coffee cups that people are drinking or tea, that looks really good. We're not using our coffee pot. We're not using our coffee pot here at work because of COVID, because we don't want to share germs. And I'm like really craving that. But anyway, okay, you ready?
Okay, alrighty. So we're talking about SVL best practices. And I did a little research and narrowed the list to 7. So we have 7 simple strategies for synchronous virtual learning. So the first one is to develop a set of rules and expectations beforehand and make sure that your students are aware of those on day 1. So everybody's on the same page. If there are any rules that would affect grades or attendance, make sure that you put those in your Blackboard syllabus as well. Because you know, if you just tell them, they're going to say they never heard that. Number 2, make the virtual learning as interactive as possible. We want students to be engaged. So if you do a meet and greet activity on the first day, that'll help them be more comfortable engaging in the classroom. My first day, personally, is a meet and greet and all the rules and what the class will look like each day, how to get registered for my math lab, and all that stuff. Everything out of the way on day 1, and on day 2, we go to work. The third one, help students visualize the content, and you can do that by adding pictures, slides, or videos to direct the conversation. Fourth one, refresh student engagement every 5 minutes. And so that may mean, you know, telling a story, but draw your audience back in. And so, you know, our students, there are a lot of them that have kids at home and they're trying to take this class while their kids are there in the house. They have a lot that they have to do that day, and their mind's wandering on how they're going to get all their to-do list done. So try to pull them back into the conversation and keep them engaged. And so I have an example of that. So I'm going to re-engage you right now. And this takes care of steps number 2, 3, and 4 on the list. So here's a video. So I want you to watch, and at the end, we're going to see, who do you relate to most?
All right, can you see me now? All right, I should be good now. Everybody see me?
How cool, I get to use the Zoom thing. Wait, click the what? Okay, I got the cords. Now what?
Oh, you have a dog. Well, don't be careful with your. Wow, you have a cat. Oh, everyone has pets to show. Awesome.
Day 2, got an email. Apparently we got to design our own lesson plans for the online curriculum. Anyways, long story short, freaked out, spent $4,000 on teachers, paid teachers.
District is confused, kids are confused, parents are confused, teachers are confused. Don't think we're not confused about it, how confused we is.
Good morning, students. Welcome to another day of online class. So today we're going to get back into chapter 6. Does anyone have any questions about bimetallism or westward expansion?
Conjugation is where you.
We're going to act as if we are really in school. At school, you guys just get to go in and out the refrigerator as you please? No, you don't. So get out the kitchen.
Yeah, no, this is my fancy office when everyone else is being so loud in my house.
New email. We understand this can be stressful, so we have assembled this easy list of 145 strategies for you to use while teaching online. Read over them and be prepared to discuss all of them at the next Zoom meeting tomorrow. Be ready. Oh, great. Of course.
Online learning, distant learning, whatever you want to call it. Google Classroom, MS Teams, Edmodo, Remind One-on-One, Zoom. All of it is unnecessary. I'd rather be back in my classroom than to deal with all this. How do you feel about online learning? How I feel about being 10 feet from my bed and I can't get in it? I call it torture.
It's only day 3, and I'm already hiding from my children. Not my school children. My real children.
All right, I got a math problem for you. Now, if Daddy's been locked up in the house for 15 days, times 3 hours a day for teaching y'all, divided by 2 hours of sleep, divided by 11 more hours of him having to clean up after y'all, how many glasses of wine does Daddy have to take so he doesn't lose his damn mind?
All right, so as everybody sees this right here, what we're going to do is, oh, it's backwards? Okay. Is that better?
Set up password for the kids, set up a schedule for the kids, set up our schedule, have a virtual team meeting. Why? Y'all just come up with this stuff yesterday? I know half these kids don't got no internet. Almost all these kids don't got laptops. What kind of games y'all playing?
Hi, kids. I am teaching from inside a closet today. As a parent, I have found it is the only way to escape my children and stop them from interrupting. I feel like the kids on Jurassic Park. If we don't move, maybe they'll leave us alone.
The most important thing. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Ah! Sorry guys, I thought I ended the meeting. Have a great day, okay?
Recess. Go outside. And after that, get suit up and go back outside because it's PE time.
Wow, you guys are all talking at the same time. It's like we're actually in our classroom. I miss you guys.
So there's some insight to the struggles that we can all relate to. So if you're not always dressed the way you would be on campus, raise your hand. I have jeans and tennis shoes on right now. If you need that glass of wine at the end of the day, or maybe the bottle. Yeah. So, what else? Oh, you have kids. If you have kids that you're trying to teach around, God bless you. Mine are grown, thank God. So I don't know how you do that. That's got to be really difficult. What else? Anybody else can relate to any of those in particular? I, of course, liked the math problems. So there's some, see, brought you back in, re-engaged. So what number are we on? 5. Learn as much as possible at the tools at your disposal. And so we heard some of those in the video, but here's some others that I wrote down. We have Collaborate, Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and et cetera. So those are all platforms that you have to have one of them so that you can all meet in the virtual classroom. Then you have to have some technology to help you get your material across. So maybe it's a document camera, a writing tablet, webcam, microphone. And then we have other technologies such as Band or Kahoot that can help you engage students. And so I think the goal, there's a lot to choose from. Don't overdo it. Find what works for you and do your best to try to keep it simple. Okay. Number 6, maintain a lively pace. So adjust your tone and pace based on students' needs. You know, that monotone instructor who's reading from the book in the classroom, when you take that online, it's torture. So try not to do that. Try to make it engaging. And then break students into small groups. You can use small groups for engaging activities that require collaboration or discussion between students. And so I have another little short video that'll show you how you can break students into groups in Blackboard Collaborate. I have some sample students here. So one of our tips was to break students into smaller groups and have them interact and collaborate with one another. I did that in the physical classroom with our upper level math classes. So I would bring worksheets to class, hand them out, break students into smaller groups, and have them do some pencil paper math together. And I really think it helped them master concepts. In the spring, I decided to see if I could do the same thing with in our virtual classroom. And so I used Blackboard Collaborate in the breakout set groups to do that. So I loaded the worksheets in Blackboard, and on a practice day, students would print those out and bring them to the virtual classroom. I broke students into smaller groups, and they would work with one another on that worksheet in the virtual classroom, and it worked really well. So let me show you how you can break students into smaller groups. So I have a list of some volunteer students here. And if I go over to share content, that's where you'll find the breakout groups. Once you're in the breakout groups, you have some options. You can randomly assign or custom assign your groups. I use random assign because I want students to work with different students throughout the semester. So each time we work a worksheet, I do random, and they're probably going to have a different group than they did before. With the number of students I have, I can create 2 groups or 3 groups, and I'm just going to keep it on 3. If you want, you can let them switch groups. Once I have the group set, I want to leave them. And here's my groups that it's formed for me. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and I will be in the main room. You have to push start. And now all those students are going to their breakout room. So I have Group 1 with Jeanette and Matt, and they're working on their assignment together. Group 2 is Jen and Sam, and they're working on their assignment together, and so on. I'm in the main room, but I can join the groups and check on their progress. And this is what I do. I jump around from group to group and see if they have any questions. Okay. If you have a student who is kicked out because of a poor internet connection, they will appear in the main group. And you can come back here and reassign them. Just add them to a group. Okay. And that's all there is to it. It's really easy to do, and I think it is beneficial to students to have that opportunity to work together. So ultimately, I think the goal is for us to try to have the virtual classroom resemble our physical classroom as much as possible. And that's it. There's our seven, not 145, 7 strategies. Let me stop sharing if anyone has any questions or would like to share something that worked for them. Please do, please share. Someone first time they understood math, the bottle of wine. Any comments? No one else want to share anything instructional?
Great job. That was a great job. Love the video.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions? Anybody? I see a couple of comments on there.
Our chat has, I began class with an initial question from each student. That's a good one. Using polls and collaborate helps there, so you can poll students and collaborate.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so our next presenter is Scott Lorenz. He is the professor up in protective services, and he's going to talk to us about some of the things that he does in the OLL classes. He's got a lot to show us. It's very good. Okay, thank you, Debbie. Scott, you ready?
Okay. Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop here. And I've just shared my screen too. Can you guys see that okay? Can you see that? Can you guys see that? Hold on, let me try that again. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see that okay? All right. Okay, so I'm covering best practices in OLL classes, and as I said in the first presentation, when I, in terms of best practices, you guys have all been doing this for a long time, and so this is probably just another way to do it. Some of you are already doing some of this, and I've actually learned some stuff from watching you guys over the years as well. But what I endeavored to do with OLL, and especially with what happened with COVID this year, is to try to make it a little bit more flexible and a little bit different, because let's face it, a lot of people got forced into online classes right in the middle of the semester and things like that, and so they were not necessarily the students that would normally sign up for the online classes, and they weren't really cut out for it, weren't used to it. Maybe it was their first time in there, and so I started communicating with them through video. Now, of course, I'm not teaching an SPL class, and so any video that I create is not in real time, but that is one of the benefits of the OLL class, is that students can view this stuff on demand, essentially anytime they need to, and it allows me a lot of flexibility to create something that's going to work and answer their questions somewhat in real time. And so I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of something on how I've been doing this for several years in another format in forensics, and I am a digital forensics expert. I do digital forensics for law enforcement agencies all over the state, some federal, and I work on all kinds of cases, including murder cases. And so I use that for my teaching sometimes, because we have to have search warrants to get into these devices in criminal investigations. But students always like to know how the sausage is made and how these things work, and I am able to show them some videos. But the reason why I created these videos in the first place is I wrote a pretty in-depth technical manual on how to use some of these exploits, and I am kind of known as the world expert on EDL mode, which is emergency download mode, and I caught the attention of one of the forensic companies out there, one of the largest ones in the world, and this is the software that the FBI, NSA uses, that kind of stuff, and they saw that I was very good at using their software to exploit phones, and they asked me to do a webinar on it, and I ended up doing 3 webinars for them. But one of the challenges they had is, how do we explain this to some of the forensic examiners out there? These are professional forensic examiners using their software, but not necessarily used to doing some of these advanced procedures. And so I did all kinds of diagrams on how to take phones apart, all kinds of how-to documents, things like that, very long technical manuals, and they still had problems doing that. They were telling me, hey, I can't get it to work. It's very difficult and challenging to get into these phones, especially if they're encrypted and passcode locked. And so I ended up just making a video, a short video. Here's an example of one of the videos I made. It's about 2 minutes long, or actually that one's a little bit longer than that. But it's very short. Some of my videos are narrated, some are just where you can only hear the system sounds when the computer connects and things like that. But I go through step by step, which everything has to be done in precise order. And some of it requires a microscope to do, because you're doing some very small precision shorting out phones to get them to put them in a mode to be exploited. But once I showed them these videos, they got it. And so I had investigators from all over the world emailing me, telling me, hey, that's great. I've been trying to get into this film for a month. I watched your video one time and now I get it. And so what I'm getting at here is that people are visual learners. And so I had the same experience in some of my CTC classes when I'm trying to explain things to students, and sometimes just something very simple like how to submit an assignment, and they just can't get it. And so I make a short video and the bells go off. And so I gave an example. So in our online classes, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this, if you go to the lessons and you're going to have the students submit an assignment, here's what they come across here under the lesson assignment. So notice here where they can submit their work, notice that the only text box that is open is the comments, right? The actual place where they need to do their submission is not automatically open. You have to click on that to open it. What happens is students just go to the first open box and just paste the work in there. And they don't see this, or not paying attention, don't see that. They just click it in there. Well, that's the comment section. So what happens? And I'm sure some of you have seen this before. Here's what it looks like. It's a giant wall of text that comes out in the comments section, and it completely takes the formatting away. It makes it very difficult to grade, that kind of stuff. So I always found myself for years trying to explain to students, please make sure you click on the right submission button and paste this in. And of course, when I'm telling them to do this, they're not getting it. And so I ended up making a document to show them how to do that, a PDF document. And that helped some students. I made a document with, arrows, circles, very clearly, stating what to do, but some of them still didn't get it. And so I went back to the old tried and true method I used with forensics, and I just made a video. And so now I put the video on there, and the video that I made covers all kinds of forms of submission. And so I go through and I tell them. So I'm talking to them on the video, but I'm also clicking and showing them how to submit, how to cut, how to paste, how to do all that kind of stuff, and then they get it. And so I have a variety of these different types of videos. I make some longer, some shorter, but it's a way that whenever I see a student making this kind of mistake, I could just point them in the right direction to my link and say, hey, look at this video here, this YouTube video, and they can look at it anywhere, anytime, on demand. If they've got a bad connection, they can look at it later on. They can pause it. They can fast forward. They can rewind. They can do whatever they want, but they can figure it out. I'm adding something to this presentation that I didn't have the last time, based on what Kirsten Brooks brought up and some of the issues that they deal with in their office regarding student complaints. One of the topics that came up was discussion boards. Well, I have the same issue in my class, trying to explain to students how to do a discussion board, how to grade, how we grade discussion boards, how if you're going to comment on other students, don't just put I agree. You're not going to get a good grade doing that. And so I made a series of videos on the discussion board, which I put in all my classes. There's 3 different videos there, how to submit work, behind the scenes. And there, in that video there, I essentially show them how I set up the discussion boards, how I grade, how I set them up where you have to make a submission first before you can see anybody else's post, that kind of stuff. And I let them know. I also let them know that when you do submit your initial post, I'm going to give you part of the grade, but the other part of the grade comes later on when you make a comment on somebody else's work. Well, I explain all this in the videos. And so when they look at this, then they understand better what I want from them. And they finally get it when they can see visually what's going on, and they don't get confused about it anymore. And we don't have problems with students not sure about what they're supposed to do. So I also used a lot of videos in an OER class that I designed, and that so believe me, there's plenty of videos out there on the web to use for all kinds of stuff, but it's really simple to make short videos of your own and to incorporate other videos that are on the web with those videos. And when students have a question for me and they ask me a question, and I don't have a video for them, or I don't have a way to explain it, I can make a video. Sometimes within a few minutes, I can make a short video, post it to YouTube. It'll get transcribed, and then I'll put the link on there, and then it's like I'm answering them personally, but it's benefiting the whole class. So even though this is an OLL class, it doesn't mean that I'm not responsive to my students, and they're not getting a kind of a synchronous feel to it. It's not a real-time thing, but again, they have the flexibility to view this stuff when it's convenient for them and when it works for them. And so I have a lot of different videos and things that I do for them, and explaining things in this class, how to write complaints and affidavits, that kind of stuff. And it really helps them understand how to do this stuff, because it's very complicated trying to explain some of the elements of the offense, and if they can visualize it, they get a better idea. I created a YouTube page, and I'm not an expert on YouTube. I looked at a YouTube video on how to make a YouTube page. And so I have videos set to public. I have videos set to private. I have some set to unlisted. And there's various different things that you can do there to keep some students from seeing things and others from seeing things. So you can learn all that just by looking at a few YouTube videos. So one of the videos that the students really liked was a video that I called Fight Club Robbery. And so I'm going to open this up here. So I was trying to explain to my students the elements of the offense of aggravated robbery. And Fight Club is a movie that's a 1999 kind of a cult classic thing. And so Brad Pitt is in it, if you like Brad Pitt, Ed Norton. And so in this scene right here, there's an aggravated robbery that takes place. And so I'm able to relate that to the elements of the offense in the penal code, but I can use the movie. And of course, I'm playing the movie. And I'm narrating at the same time. And then I'm showing them at what point in the movie is the actual offense occurring. I'm referring to it in the penal code. It's a movie that they all like, but they get it, right? And because I'm doing it this way, because I had Fight Club opened up in this window here, I've essentially drawn a video window around the Fight Club video and around this. I'm not violating any copyright issues or anything like that. Google, if you post a video and you use music that doesn't belong to you, or you try to put a piece of a movie in your video, it will tell you that it is restricted, and it has various different levels of restriction. This was not restricted at all. It's a video created by somebody else, and what I did was just draw a window around it. There's some software I use for that, that I use for all of my videos, making the forensic videos and things like that. It's called Debut Video Capture. I have this window open right here. So I can literally take this, I can click on this, and I can draw a square around any part of my desktop that I want to record. And that can be a YouTube video plus my PowerPoint screen or whatever. I just click select, and that's what's going to display on my video. And then I can hit record, I can pause, and then I can just go on about what I'm doing here, and it's going to show up on the video. And so it's a very handy tool. So I can essentially, the world is my own video studio with this. If I see a news story, or some student brings up a news story that they want to talk about, I can go and look at that news story on ABC or YouTube or wherever it is. I can draw a square around it, and I can comment on it at the same time, and at the same time open the book, a PDF version of the book, and show how that relates to something that's going on in the book. And so it makes them feel like, when you're doing this real time throughout the semester and they have a question that you answer with a current event that just happened yesterday, then they get the idea that, hey, you're really involved in the class with them more than just something that was put together, last year or something like that. So I can be really responsive to them, but still have the OLL, the flexible format that they like. So just some ideas that I've used that have worked for me. So my classes are done and ready to go now, but during the semester, I am continually adding videos and doing other videos just to add some context to the class, or to let the students kind of dictate where the class goes sometimes. So if anybody has any questions, anything like that? And if you guys need to know more about YouTube or anything, again, I'm not an expert, but you guys can email me. I can send you some links. I can send you links to the software, that kind of thing. No problem.
Questions? Okay. It's interesting that in the morning session, Scott, a lot of people mentioned other software that they were using to do video capture. And I don't know. I think we should have a discussion about that after in-service sometime with maybe we can have a virtual meeting about it and do some cross-training because a lot of people are using different stuff and it's exciting to me. Anyway, thank you.
I think that's not the only software out there. It just happens to be what I've used for years and I'm comfortable with it and already own it. But I'm sure there's many other software that does the same thing.
Well, you did a great job, and I really like the way you've opened the door to introducing more other things to OLL courses. I think that's such a good idea. Anyway, thank you so much.
Some others are mentioning some other software they're using there, ShareX and QuickTime, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that does that, so it's good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So now I guess the chairs are gonna have to go make a sandwich or something because now I'm going to talk about program outcomes, and I've been over this with the chairs ad nauseum. They have heard this a million times. But I wanted to be sure to share this with all the faculty. So if you've heard this before, if you've been to the chair meetings or you're a program coordinator and you've heard this from me before, please feel free to go get a Coke. That's perfectly fine. But I want to be sure that everybody has an opportunity to hear this. So when Sachs was here, as Dr. Garrett was saying, we had site visits. And at those site visits, when we went to Marble Falls and Fredericksburg, Sachs COC asked faculty how much they knew about program student learning outcomes. And they asked them, how are your program student learning outcomes assessed? And luckily, they said, we don't do that. That's really handled from Central Campus at the academic department level, which was pretty much the right answer. However, it became clear that they really didn't understand that process. And really, at some point, they may be asked to provide feedback or provide information on the process of assessing program student learning outcomes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and what they are and what that means and make sure that everybody has some knowledge of that because even though we got cleared on our 5-year report for compliance for Sachs COC, we are not cleared on the site visits. And so the subject of program student learning outcomes that came up on the site visits actually could come up again, and we really don't know yet how we're going to be asked to respond to those. So this is just a little schooling for everybody on that, and I hope you find it helpful that it gives you a little bit of background about that. So on your syllabus, you have student learning outcomes for the course. That's at the course level. And what they do is they tell us what the student is able to do. It's about student learning. It's not about anything else. It's not about department goals. It's not about recruitment. It's not about anything else. It's about what does the student, what have they learned or will they learn by the time they finish this course? What are they able to do? And so, you know, as teachers, you do this all the time. You give a test, somebody on that test, maybe, half the class bombs question number 10. And you have to think, and I know you think, I know you do this automatically as good teachers. You think, what the heck happened? What happened there? Did I not cover that well enough? Or was the question written poorly? Or was that the day I was out sick and somebody, I told them to read about it in the textbook? Did they not adequately cover it in the readings? Was there a sub for me? You know, somebody came in and took that class for me? What happened? And so when you analyze it and you study it, and from your observation, you try to figure out, what do I need to change? Do I need to throw out that question? Do I need to rewrite it? Do I need to cover that differently in class? Do I need to have a module on the side that explains that, because we don't have time to do that in class? Anyway, you make those academic curricular decisions, and you do that automatically, and you do it every time you teach. You do it in little small steps about different things. I don't know about you, but when I was a teacher, I mean, I was changing my tests all the time because there was always ways to improve them or to make something work better. You know, it works for a while and now it's time to change it. Or you change the way you do something in the classroom. So that's what really student learning outcomes are about. They're about how students learn and how we figure out how that best happens. Now, program student learning outcomes are just the next level up. That's what kind of student learning outcomes, what will the student know when they finish the program? What will they have learned? And so the wording for everything that's called a student learning outcome, whether it's a course student learning outcome or a program student learning outcome, and there's also institutional student learning outcomes, all of those have to do with student learning, and they are not written for anything else, not anything else about the department. So this is part of the problem that we had when we turned in things before, is that when the departments, really the process is this: you try to look at your department and see where you have an issue or a problem, and then you try to see, how can I assess what that problem is? Then you look at that data that you have and you think, okay, the data shows these people aren't getting it, they aren't understanding it, and then you make some kind of change. You do that at the course level, and program student learning outcomes, you're going to be doing that at the program level. So an example of that would be, and if you've already heard this, please go get a Coke, because I don't want to bore you, but I've said this a million times to a lot of people that have already heard it. I made a call one day to Rick Weitzel, and it was really about plane parts and aviation. But he made just an offhand comment to me that, you know, a lot of the people that come in here, their math is very poor. They have a hard time with the navigation courses in the first semester. They have to calculate things. They have to use simple math. They can't do that without a calculator. They're dependent on the calculator, and you don't always have a calculator on you when you're up in a cockpit in the plane. And you know, we're in those little planes, those little Pipers. So he was concerned about that, and it struck me, okay, this is really a good example of a program student learning outcome. He has an issue. And what needs to change? It's really not about the course. So we took out the degree plan and we looked, and as it turned out, the math courses that they take are in the second semester, but they have to take navigation the first semester. So now you think, okay, do I need to move that up? Do I need to rearrange my courses in the program? Or if you don't want to do that, do I need to offer some kind of module on the side that will teach the necessary courses that they need for that course? Or do I need to cite what prerequisites, what math prerequisites are needed before they take the navigation course? You know, you have a lot of choices there, but those are not course changes, those are program changes. And so that's what the departments have to do. They have to find something that doesn't work within the program. They have to assess it, and really what his next step would have been if he decided to use that is he would probably need to give some kind of math assessment to see what kind of math are they missing and how bad is it and how many people does it affect. And then Once he has that assessed, then he makes the change, and then he would come back and assess again. So that is the assessment cycle. So I guess the point that I want you to understand is this is what we're being asked to turn into SAC COC. We did that, but there was confusion on it was confusion on a lot of different things. Some people did not have things written about student learning. They called things student learning outcomes and program learning outcomes, but they weren't. They were dealing with recruitment. They were dealing with textbooks and supplies. Those are operational, so those would not be any kind of student learning outcome. Some people were missing data. That was an issue. And other people, they really didn't find an issue. They said, look, here's what we do to assess how well students learn. They're supposed to make a 70% or above, and look, this one got an 85, and here the average is 83, and here's the average is 92, and that's good. It's true. It's working. You're assessing it, and it all looks good. But the problem is, then what are you going to change, and then how are you going to assess that again? So when you show that everything's working rather than taking things that are not working, then you have nothing to show at the very end of the cycle. So that was a problem with some departments. So before Christmas, we asked everybody, we want to go through this, and we want you to do some homework over Christmas. We want you to write one outcome, and we want you to take it through that assessment cycle, and we want to be sure that everybody has the right idea. And so they did that, and the chairs turned those into me, or the program coordinators turned them into me. And still some people that are a little confused, so we'll get with them again. Because when SACS responds to us, they've already responded now on the report, as Dr. Garrett told us this morning, but they haven't responded on the site visits. We're still going to have to respond to the problems with the program, student learning outcomes, as they came up at the sites. And so we want to be sure that everybody is kind of clear about that's what the cycle is. And the whole purpose of it is really to be sure that even though we observe in the classroom, and even though we have an innate sense of what students need, they want to know that we are measuring what we do and that we are data-driven, that we are using some of that data to drive some of the changes that we make in the curriculum. And that's really the goal of it. And I don't know, for the last, I would say 10 years, SACS keeps coming back, asking us to do assessment cycles. That has not changed. There's nothing new in that. And so this is what we're going to have to go back and look at once they tell us exactly what they want. And when I talked to Dr. Garrett after the first session, but before this session, she said she thinks that they're going to be asking for an action plan. How do we go forward and make sure that we're doing that right as we go forward? So your departments may be getting with you and asking for some data. We'll be sharing stuff with the department chairs once we get those reports. But it occurred to me that I think a lot of faculty don't know. They've never heard those terms. Some of them were really caught off guard. And I want to be sure that everybody understands that we have an assessment cycle, that we assess student learning outcomes at the course level, that we do it at the program level, and that we do it at the institutional level. And it's the program level where we got a recommendation. So we're going to have to go back and fix that. Any questions? I know that was boring, but I had to do it. So we need to be sure that everybody knows about that. All right. So next up, and I think we're on schedule pretty much. Any questions? No. Okay. So next up is Dr. Andrea Foskett, and Dr. Daniel Wiegert, and they're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to proctor with Zoom. And I think, I don't know if Debbie is going to pipe in about proctoring with Collaborate, or if you already joined that information together. I forget from this morning. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, Andrea, you're still muted.
Let's try that again. Can you hear me? I pulled a Dean Anderson. Can you hear me?
You sure did. I'm going to get you a t-shirt.
Well, okay. Let me start again. So I was saying, thank you, Dean Anderson, for the opportunity to present on using Zoom proctoring in our SVL classes. I'm joined this afternoon by Daniel Wiegert, and he's going to help me present this content. And so he's going to be transitioning through the slides, and we're going to hopefully make our way through this. He just told me that my video is acting a little spotty, so hopefully it works out. So you might recall spring of 2020, that's when the pandemic hit. And when we started off the semester, it was a fairly normal semester, and we had our traditional face-to-face classes, lectures and labs, and everything was as normal could be. And then again, mid-semester, when we went into shutdown mode and lockdown and so on and so forth, we all had to very abruptly transition our classes, all of our content and our exams to an online format. So back then, of course, we were not at all prepared. At least I can speak for myself. I was not prepared to handle online classes. So we did the best we could. We offered all of our exams in a non-proctored format because we did not have any options at that time, and we were still learning a whole lot about Blackboard Collaborate and Zoom and WebEx and all of the other platforms that were out there and available to us. So it was a learning curve. But what we noticed, and Dan, if you could go ahead, and switch slides for me. Thank you. So again, I was just saying that we did not have any available proctoring software available to us. So here's what we started noticing. Half of the exams were taken in a completely traditional face-to-face proctored format, and then pretty much the other half of the exams for the remainder of that spring 2020 semester, we had to move to an online format, and most of our exams were non-proctored. So you're looking at some of the evidence here from one of my classes, and you're looking at a table here of several students, and I'm going to describe it the best I can, and Daniel will kind of point to it. So there were 4 lecture exams. The first exam, shown in green, that was when it was face-to-face proctored, and then exams 2, 3, and 4 were after the break when it was online, non-proctored. So, I mean, I'm going to take a few examples here, I guess. Let's start like at the top of that table. If you look at students A and B, you see that they scored 28 and 38 on the first exam, and that was the proctored face-to-face. And then you compare that with everything else in red, which were the non-proctored exams, and you see a tremendous difference. And so this is typically the trend that we were seeing. Now, of course, if you look at the students on the very bottom of that table, F and G, you see that there's not a whole lot of difference between, them taking a proctored versus a non-proctored exam. So those were not the students we were concerned about. But we just noticed that overall, the percentages of A's and B's went up much, much higher than the ones that were getting the C's and the D's before we switched to the online non-proctored format. So if you go to the next slide, Daniel, this is just a continuation of the same set of students, but you're looking at 5 different exams here, and these were all the lab exams. So again, exams 1 and 2 were proctored face-to-face, and then 3, 4, and 5 were the online non-proctored. So you're still seeing similar trends, which caused us to really think about this, and it made us a little concerned as to what we were looking at. And of course,
we hoped that things would improve, but it did not. And you know where we ended up with the fall semester. We continued, and we implemented a new synchronous virtual format, which was again online. So we really started thinking along the lines of, okay, what can we do? What can we do to maintain the integrity of our classes, and what kind of proctoring can we do ourselves in our classrooms? Now, right about that time, summer or so, in the science department, we kind of went 50-50, I would say. Most of our instructors, half of them, I would say, would preferred to use Blackboard Collaborate. The other half chose Zoom. So we explored options for proctoring that were available to us already, either through Collaborate and Zoom. We use Zoom. I use Zoom in my classes. So I'm going to share with you, and Daniel uses Zoom as well. So we're just going to share with you some of the things that we learned this past semester. Now, we recognize and we understand that every instructor should and will do whatever is best for their class, whatever is best for their students. So we're not advocating one method or the other, not by any means. We're just sharing what we've learned this past semester. So I'm going to start off with the group on the left where I talk about pros, and then Daniel will take over. So as with any proctoring platform, even if it's face-to-face proctoring, there are some cases of cheating that always happens. We hope to catch or identify most of those events as best as we can, but there are always some cases that go undetected. So I would say with the Zoom proctoring, 90% of the cases, probably even higher, depending on your class size, certainly. I would say about 90% of the cheating was eliminated. But yes, there could be cases that were undetected. The cool thing about this is, okay, this is just like your regular lecture classroom. So students are comfortable with that same Zoom environment, except that instead of you teaching new content that lecture period, you're giving them an exam and you're proctoring them, and and Daniel will go into the details of how that is set up. But what you can do is, as you are proctoring and you're viewing all of your students, and you typically can view all the students, so typically groups of 15 or 20 maybe, but you can view all of those students in a grid, and you can zoom in quite nicely to look at details. You can record this, right? So which means that if you are suspicious about somebody and you're not really grasping exactly what's going on while the exam is in progress, you can always go back and review the recording and zoom in and identify problem cases and figure out, do you have enough evidence to pursue it, to kind of have a discussion with the student. One of the features here is the spotlight feature. So you can, if you are suspicious of one particular student in your group of 15 or 20, you can place a spotlight on that one student, and that student's video footage is captured throughout the recording. So you don't see just a few of those students in the Zoom, but that one particular student stays in focus. And you can obviously go back after the exam and review more carefully and make a determination whether you feel like there was suspicious behavior or not. We've compared features in terms of proctoring that's available between Zoom and Blackboard Collaborate. And we feel like there are quite a few neat little features that are available with Zoom. Of course, like I said, you can see all the students, especially if you have dual monitors. You can be projecting the exam on one screen, and then you have an entire second monitor where you can view all of your students, fairly large. You can see quite a lot of detail. You don't have to kind of toggle between pages to view your students. You should be able to see all of the details quite nicely. There are other security features. We always lock down our meetings once an exam gets started. In which case, so if a student decides to go off screen and kind of review notes or whatever, they can enter your meeting after that. Now, the one thing we noticed with Blackboard Collaborate, and I call it the stealth feature, is we noticed, and this was one of the big reasons why we decided we prefer Zoom. The stealth features where you have your list of participants, but at any time that student can kind of go into stealth mode where the instructor or the proctor does not view the student. You don't know if the student is still in your meeting. You don't see them, you don't hear them, but they can still see you and they can still see your questions. They can hear you. They still have access to the exam. So, I mean, a student could go off into stealth mode for about 10 seconds or whatever and refer to their notes, figure out the answer, and come right back into your meeting. That was one of the disadvantages we thought with Collaborate, which is completely avoided. That is not a feature in Zoom. So it facilitates more secure proctoring. So I'll let you take over, Daniel.
Thanks. There are some negatives with Zoom. Zoom's definitely not perfect. One big problem, and we've tried to address this, I don't know if anything's come of it again, but you have to have a paid subscription in order to run a Zoom meeting long enough to actually proctor a test. The subscription, you only need, I think it's like a $15 a month subscription roughly. It gets you enough to do what you need to do, but you do have to pay for it. The students don't, but the instructor has to have the paid account. You will need multiple versions of the test because while the way we usually do our tests, the students shouldn't be messing with their computer, so it should limit their ability to record or do much, but there are still ways that it could potentially record the test occurring. So the questions may be out there after you've done one version, so it's best to have multiple versions. That way the students don't know which version they're going to get. The students had a couple of problems with taking the test this way. There were a number of students that didn't like it because it showed their testing area. So if they were taking the test in their room at home, you have to be able to see their room, so their room is on display for everyone in the class. They also didn't like not having control over the test. They cannot decide to move forward a question or go back. You control how, when the questions move on, and everybody has to go together through the test. So unfortunately, they don't get to kind of customize and take as much time as they need with one question. They have a set amount of time, and that's all they can have. Because of the way this is set up, there is a limited time per question. So you have to kind of limit the questions and limit how much time they get in order to get this done in time, because you're also going to have a little bit of time setting up and wrapping up at the end that you're going to lose trying to get through all of this. And we did have some issues, some students, not all, but we had a few students that had issues uploading pictures of the test, which I'll go over in a second. But in one case, I think I had a student that was somewhere between 8 and 10 times they had to upload one test before they could get me a copy that I could read in order to grade. So setup. There's a couple of things that have to happen. One, students have to join on time. They cannot join late. Part of the reason is if they join late, the whole checking them in bit takes a while. Once you started the test, it's really not feasible to check somebody in. So they need to be there before you start the test. Once you start the test, nobody else really needs to be coming in. If they get dropped, we don't usually let them back in. They'll have to take it either take it with a different class, do whatever the makeup policy is, or come up with some other option. But we don't usually let them back in. When they check in, one of the first things the instructor does is has each student show them their surroundings. So like when my class starts, I would have the student pick up the camera, show me their test, whatever they're writing on, show me the desk around them, show me the floor to either side, so that I can see that they have not pre-written anything on their answer sheet. They don't have any notes hidden underneath. They don't have any notes on the ground or a book on the ground that they could be referring to. Then we have them sit back far enough that we can see face and what they're writing on, and their hands should be staying visible the entire time they're taking the test. So, which may necessitate them moving the camera around a little bit to get this to work. Our tests are typically a PowerPoint presentation, kind of like this, with usually one question per slide, and it's set up to automatically transition every so many seconds. So the test will go through. I'll cover that again a little bit more in the next slide. But you'll start the test. The instructor will focus. Like for me, I have one screen where I have all the students' images, and I have one with the test itself. The test is doing its thing over here, going through. I'm watching the students to see, is anybody putting their hands down and fiddling with something, like maybe doing something on a cell phone or on a tablet? Does it look like somebody might be trying to flip through a book or through notes? Are they talking to somebody? Because their audio and video both have to be on so I can see if they're talking to somebody and hear what they're saying. When they're done, one of the things we often do, real quick, I forgot to mention this and we forgot to add it in here. Back at the beginning, a lot of times we will also have them show a photo ID when they check in to verify it's the right student, assuming you don't know them by sight already. At the end, we will then have them take their answer sheet, hold it up in front of the camera, and scan it up so that we can see what their answer sheet looks like. And that spotlight feature that Andrea mentioned on the previous slide, this is where that comes in. What I do is I spotlight that student, have them show me their test, and by spotlighting it, their picture is the main thing being recorded at that point. Because the PowerPoint, I'm not sharing the PowerPoint anymore, so their screen's the main thing being recorded. And I can see, do they have, see the general gist of what's on their paper. Andrea and the A&P group actually caught a student cheating where the student did that, showed them what they had, and then for a half an hour hadn't submitted the test. And a half hour later, when they finally submitted, the answer sheet they submitted didn't match what they had shown. But by recording all of this, it gives us documentation to say, no, you were cheating. Gives us something to back us up. Once everybody has shown their test, then you have them take a picture, scan the test, whatever, and usually upload it into Blackboard, send you an email, some form or fashion, get you a copy of it. One key thing is you are going to have to check each and every submission when they come in to make sure you can see all of the answers and read them. Because I often get at least 5 to 10% of my students will submit something that I can't read. My computer won't open because it's a weird file format, and then I'll have to have them do it again. Because of all this time at the end for them submitting and all the time at the beginning checking them in, your test needs to be relatively short to get it done during a class time. It's best if you can limit your numbers of students to 15 or so, which we've often accomplished by breaking the class up into multiple groups. And if you're going to do things like multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank questions, these are the kind of questions that work the best. You probably don't want to go over 50 questions. 50 questions you can typically get through in about an hour. We usually do 2 passes through the test, so they see all 50 questions once. I think I've been kind of standardizing to about 40 seconds the first pass. And then they go through all 50 questions again, 20 seconds each, to give them a second chance to review it. So if something jogged their memory later on, they can see the question again and change their answer if they want. Many of them just use it to verify that, yes, I answered every question. Yes, I put the correct answer on the correct line and all that. Usually it's best if the students use pen to make sure it's readable when they take the picture. Pencil sometimes gets too faint and sometimes it's hard to read. It's best if you can standardize your answer sheet. It makes it a lot easier on you for grading all of these since they are all going to be in on the computer screen. It's easier if it's always the same format. It makes the grading go a lot quicker. When people don't use the standardized sheet, it often takes a little longer because they don't often set the stuff up the same way. And then you got to kind of hunt to find all of the answers and figure out which answers go to which question and so on. And like I said, more of your multiple choice, true, false, or like a fill in the blank style question, these are the ones that work the best. If you want to go with something like a short answer or a relatively short essay question, you can. You're going to have to drop this number quite a bit, though, to give them the time to do that. I know one instructor in the science department that does more or less math questions where they actually have to write out all the steps. And I think he usually gives between 5 and 10 questions because that's what they'll have time to get through during the class time. And here's an example of my answer, one of my answer sheets. I usually set it up this way. That way they've got plenty of blank space if they need to write notes to themselves. If they're running out of time on one question, want to jot a note to themselves to come back to it later, it gives them space to do that. And it makes it easier, like I said, for grading because I know where all the answers should be.
Okay. I wanted to briefly introduce a proctoring program, BioSite, which is part of the BioSig ID. So I'm going to very quickly summarize this. The science department participated in a pilot last semester, and it was just 2 sections of Physics 14-15, the physical sciences class. And so we just participated in that, and it was proctored through BioSite. So it's like most other online proctoring services. They have a few unique features which I would like to describe. And I want to also show you an example of what the video recording or what the screenshots look like. So we have limited information on this because it's a pilot, but I'm going to share with you whatever we have right now. So Daniel, if you can, yeah, thank you. So some of the problems or some of the issues that came up that I think needs to be addressed were, well, first of all, their program works in such a way that whatever the instructor receives for review, the video footage and screenshots, whatever, all of those images are very, very blurry. So you cannot identify too much detail, and there's not much clarity to the images. So which makes it really hard to claim beyond any reasonable doubt that, you are suspicious of any kind of academic dishonesty. There is no lockdown browser, not yet at least. They don't do any ID check, so we really do not know if the student taking the exam is indeed a student in your class or not. Of course, since this is part of BioSig ID, they still do the signature, the password authentication, just like you would in any of the online courses. But we feel like that's something that someone else could easily imitate if you studied the signature pattern closely enough. There were a few other things, the other important thing before we leave the slide is there's no audio accompanying the video recording. So if we can go to the examples on the next slide. Thank you, Daniel. So this is what it looked like. So I'm going to try to describe this. This is just one example. And so you can see on the far left an image of a student taking the exam. And if you look at that image, you can clearly see that there's not a whole lot of detail that's visible because of the blurriness factor that BioSite employs. To the right of that image, you're going to see a heat map. So what happens is before the student starts the exam, as part of the authentication process, the student would have to position their face exactly in a particular frame. So they've got to stay within that frame at all times. If the student moves their head, you can clearly see from an image like that, if they move their head too much to the left or to the right, or if someone else shows up in their screen, in that field of view, you would be able to identify infractions like that. But if you kind of also look around the student's face, well, first of all, just looking at that student, it is hard to tell if that student is male or female. So, you know, the level of blurriness that's been incorporated into this video footage makes it really hard to identify any infractions, again, beyond reasonable doubt. And if you're looking around, you don't see too much of their surroundings. You don't see anything that's going on in their peripheral view. You could have a friend or someone else standing right next to them. And remember, there's no audio here as well. So you could have someone standing right next to them, telling them answers to the questions, like if it was multiple choice, it would be fairly simple, like I'll fill in the blank, and the student could easily get help, and bioside wouldn't be able to detect those infractions. You also don't see the students' hands. You don't see what they're doing. You don't see their desk. You don't see their table. You don't see if they have multiple devices right in front of them, another laptop or a tablet or a phone. You don't see if they have a textbook or their notes or their PowerPoints or anything. And with the blurriness of that image, that student could easily shift their focus from one screen to a screen right next to it, and you wouldn't know the difference. So there are a few limitations to this program, the way that it is set up right now. I want to show you on the bottom, you see a kind of a slider. And so that's basically the entire footage. So you see that's mostly green in this case. So if there's any regions of suspicion or infractions, you will see areas where it shows up red. And those are the areas that a proctor would be drawn towards to kind of figure out, to try to explore that footage a little closely. On the top right, you see there's a symbol there that kind of shows you, with the exclamation mark. That is the percentage, the infraction percentage for the entire recording. So if it's 0.4, anything less than 5, and the instructor can determine apply the right filters and determine where the cutoff needs to be. So if it's something really small, it's probably not too much need for concern. But if that shows up red with a bright red exclamation mark, 15, 20% infraction rate, and then you would definitely want to go look and see what's going on in those areas, those red areas where there's possible cheating or so. And there are other icons that kind of shows you the percentage of the time that the student's face was within the frame, within the field of view that the camera was capturing. And then the happy or that smiley face there tells you the percentage of time where everything looked okay and there was no need for concerns. So that's the results from the pilot that we participated in. We do have a lot of concerns about the way that the program is set up. I think there's room for discussion, and we'll just have to wait and see where this goes. So that's a very short update or a report on this particular proctoring platform that's available through BioSig ID that CTC is exploring.
And one thing, initially, it made it sound like we were actually going to get little snippets of recordings from this after each test. But with the pilot, we never got to see those recordings. All we got is a little bit of data at the very end after the semester was over. So until they kind of finalize this and actually get it working and figure out what they're going to do, it's kind of hard for us to say. Really, we need to see this kind of stuff right after the test to be able to do something about it if we find something suspicious. If you wait till the end of the semester, it's kind of hard for us to do anything.
That's correct.
Couple things. One, I do want to make this clear, because this actually got brought up in the morning session. The stuff we do with the Zoom proctoring, we don't we don't spring this on students at the last minute. As soon as the semester starts, we actually have information that we provide to them explicitly stating this is how it's going to work. And I go over it, I know in my class, I kind of go over a little bit on the first day. This is how the test will be set up. These are the things you're going to have to do. Because I'm not trying to hide it. I also set my test days now, and unless for some reason, Zoom dies, Blackboard dies, everything dies, and I can't get on the internet, and I can't run a test, otherwise, that test day is when they have their test. That way they know this day I will have a test, period. And they can plan to be taking their tests in an area where they're comfortable with people seeing what's around them. They can make sure they're dressed appropriately and all of those kind of fun things. But we don't spring it on them at the last minute. We actually try to be proactive to make sure that they know this is coming, this is what you need to do. So that, hopefully if there's anybody that has any issues or concerns about their surroundings being viewed and so on, they can try and take steps to minimize whatever their concerns are or can address it with us. Well, it looks like there's a couple people in the chat. And yeah, we've actually looked at the possibility of if you've got something like if you wanted to use Blackboard or use Publisher software and have the test in software and have them log in with a phone viewing them and the screen so that you can see that they're not using any other computer programs and all that. Not all of us are really comfortable with that option or have good options for that. That's one potential that we've been looking at. Another question was, how do we handle situations where the students claim their webcams and microphones don't work? Is pretty much we tell them up front, it's in my syllabus. You have to have a good internet connection. You have to have one that works. I work with them to make sure that their connections are going to be good enough, and I warn them ahead of time. If their connection times out and they get kicked out of the meeting, this is where the policy on makeup tests comes into play. That depends on class to class. Some people just say you take the final exam and that replaces your missed test. Others will, let them take the test with a class later in the week. Whatever the professor's where the professor's policy is for that class. But we kind of put it back on them that, you're taking this class, this is what we expect. And again, this is something that we covered day one. It's in the syllabus. It's in other material that we've written and posted in Blackboard. It's not hidden. We kind of hammer it home the first day. So if they're going to continue in the class, they know they have to have this. And I've only had a couple of students that have really had connection issues. And when they got kicked out, it was, they take the makeup test later on. They, most of them didn't have a problem with that. This is where, though, you want to make sure you have some sort of way for them, some sort of backup for them so that if they do get kicked out, they can build their grade back up and it doesn't kill them. I was looking to see if there was any other questions. But here on the screen, you have my contact information and the contact information for one of our science associates. I've used this for a semester. Brett's actually used it a lot more than I have. Both of us can help you out if you have any questions about this. If you want to, have a more detailed description of how to make this work, what we do, what we don't do, what we found, please feel free to contact us. We'll walk you through it, explain whatever you need. We'll be happy to help. So unless there's any other questions.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I think at this point we're running a little behind. So why don't we take a 10-minute break and come back at 3:30, and I'm just going to whip through really quick that little thing on compassion and maintaining rigor, and then we're going to go into Kirsten's presentation on student issues. That one needs more time. So, all right, if you'll be back at 3:30.
Dan, real
Yes.
quick, there is a question that just came up from Deborah. Is CTC going to get a Zoom account?
I have written twice now about it. And so I don't know. According to Dr. 80, yes, we were, but I need to get that verification from Cliff. And I've written him 2 emails. The last one I wrote him was on 1/6. And he has not written me back.
Can I chime in for just a second?
Yeah.
The conversation came up amongst the deputies whether how the faculty like WebEx versus Zoom versus anything else that's being used. At one point Zoom had the big issues with being compromised, let's call it that, which we think has been fixed. So the question, I guess, was, and I don't know, Dean Anderson, what you found out from the faculty, if there's more of a need for WebEx or for Zoom, if there's a preference for one or the other, because I think it wouldn't matter that much to the college what we purchase as long as we have an idea what the faculty like.
Dr. 80, I think that they are really split between Collaborate and Zoom. I don't think anybody is, maybe one department is using WebEx for instruction. And the problem with Zoom is you really need to purchase the second level. The first free level is limited in what it can do, and it can't get you through a whole class. It's only 45 minutes.
Correct.
So they really need us to get a site license, because everybody that's using Zoom is forced to pay out of their pocket right now to be able to do the things they need to do to teach adequately.
Right. I guess that's why we have Blackboard, Collaborate, and WebEx. So, but if that's not the preferred mode, then you're right. I mean, the college will have to support it. We're switching to a platform that's not supported by the college now. So, but I'm glad you're following up on it. That's good. That's excellent.
Yep, I'm waiting to hear. The problem is we got class starting next week, and so a lot of people need to know. So I'll follow up with him.
Feel free to elevate to me. I can follow up.
Okay.
Just send it to me, and I that's what I'm here for.
Okay. All right. Will do. Okay. Thank you. So let's take a break. Let's be back at 3:30. That gives you about 8 minutes. Stretch. Run to the restroom. Okay. Everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so we're going to do a real quick and dirty job on this next topic. I had to skip it in the first session because we ran out of time, but I do want to kind of address it. I don't need to say a whole lot about it, but I kind of want to hear some feelings about it. So you're welcome. You're welcome to pipe in. So the first thing I want to talk about is rigor a little bit, and kind of what that means. And I don't know if you're familiar with Vincent Tinto, but he's been around a long time. Vincent Tinto is a very renowned retention specialist. I've gone to several workshops in the past, and he is the author of a lot of books, and also he is behind a lot of the retention movement that you see at community colleges and colleges. But he has established through his research that the biggest motivator and the reason that students stay in school, as you probably know, is you. It's their teacher. It's their teacher more than anything else. It's more than the status of the institution. It's more than anything. It is about their relationship with you. You are the ones that cause them to persist. They stay in school because they bond with you. Your relationship is absolutely key. And so what we've learned is that students learn better when they are motivated, and they are motivated by what they value. And they value you. It's your relationship with them. So I went in and I looked at a study about, Pearson actually did this study, and it goes all the way down to elementary school, but it goes all the way up through college. And they asked the students what were the most important characteristics of their teachers, what made them the most valuable to them as students. And they said, first, that the instructor wanted to develop a trusted relationship with their students. Second, that they were patient, that they were caring in their instruction. Third, that they knew and did tailor their instruction to meet the needs of the students in their classes. 4, that they were absolutely dedicated to student success. They wanted to see their students succeed. And 5, that they actively engaged their students. And these were characteristics that were necessary to develop relationships between students and their teachers. So the first part that I want to talk about is what rigor is. If you Google rigor and you look at it in an educational setting, rigor does not mean longer and harder. It doesn't mean that. There are some instructors that feel, oh, well, I need to time this test because it's too easy untimed, or I need the test to be longer, or I need to make things harder. That is really not the definition of rigor. What the definition of rigor is for education is that you are making your instruction so that students can demonstrate their learning at a higher level. In other words, they are going to produce better quality work. That is the goal of having a rigorous classroom. And so when you put activities or things into your class I want you to consider that that's what your goal is. So if you, I don't want to get too specific with my examples, but I just want you to consider these, that students demonstrate learning at a higher level and that students produce better quality work, and that it's our job to try to get them there. How do we get them to be that? So there are some things we can do to increase rigor, and that we kind of do that by increasing their ability to learn, or we want them to learn and pay attention and do better on their tests. And part of that, Scott actually showed in his presentation, in that he incorporated a movie. So if you incorporate things into your teaching, current songs, current references, people in the news, people that they know, things that they can identify with, and he did that with Fight Club. I thought that was a good example. Although that's a very dark movie. I mean, he just showed a he showed a clip of it. That's one way to motivate students so that they're paying attention and they're learning, and it makes them want to learn. And then there are things that you can do to increase the rigor in your class by asking higher level questions, asking more questions with analysis and synthesis and evaluation, and obviously more critical thinking. Like, have them justify their answers, have them explain more, have them do more cause and effect. I think you know all of this. I mean, this is not new information, but I think I just want to get you thinking about that before the semester starts. Because our challenge really is, how do we get students to demonstrate learning outcomes at a higher level? It doesn't mean the test has to be longer. It doesn't mean that they have to be restricted to certain things, okay? So the real challenge comes then when we have things like COVID, and we know that COVID, people have lost maybe family members, they've lost people, they may have lost their jobs, they may be depressed, they may have lost their home, they may have kids at home. We know that everybody is coping with a lot, including you as a teacher. How many of you are teaching with your kids at home? It's a lot. It is a lot. And so how do we incorporate compassion? How do we incorporate flexibility and maintain our goal of trying to have students learn your material at a higher level? And this is a question I'm posing to you, because I don't think there's any easy answers to this. I think one thing that is suggested in the literature is by providing windows for testing, where you give them flexibility on testing. Now, if you're going to proctor tests, like the science department and some of the other departments, maybe that's impossible. Maybe that's something that you can't do. But that, if you're not proctoring your test, maybe that is something you can do, or maybe that is something that you already do. I know a lot of people already give windows for testing that provide flexibility. Or maybe even incentives. I know that when we were working on the student success course, the first version a while back, we adopted a textbook, and in it they had a very kind of radical idea, which I actually tried in my classes, and I thought it was really astounding what the results were. And I'm sure you probably heard of it before. And what happened is, if your students did their assignments and they did their readings, which that's another thing, is that students don't like to do their readings. They don't like to read everything like the way they're supposed to. If they did them and they could demonstrate to you that that happened, then they were allowed on the next quiz or the next exam even, or large test even, to bring a 3x5 card, and you would have to online, like, have them show it to you, that they could bring that to their test with their notes, kind of permission to cheat. And what they found, and what I found, because I did it with my classes, is those students tried so hard to cram every piece of information on their 3x5 card that by the time they were done, they didn't even need the card. Because everything that they did going over their notes and trying to decide what to put on the card and trying to squeeze it, I mean, they wrote in little tiny little writing, trying to get every little thing on that card. It was, I mean, it's a trick. To do that and to get that all put on the card, they didn't need the card to begin with. And in fact, some of them even forgot their cards after they did that. So trying to provide some kind of incentive, some kind of motivation is another reason that students will really try really hard to learn. And so these are things I think, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you have things that you do. I'm not, you know, I'm preaching to the choir. I know that you know this. I know that you do this. But going into this semester, try to figure out, how do I get our students to operate at a higher level? How do we keep that and still be flexible and still be as compassionate as we need to be with everything that they are going through? So that's just the question I'm posing to you. Does anybody have any comments or questions? If you have ideas, would love to hear them. Okay, it's not easy. So I'm just asking you to think about that as you approach the start of the semester, and I'm done. I think it's time for Kirsten Brooks.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I had a little bit of mic issues this morning, so I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Kirsten Brooks. I'm the Associate Dean of Instructions, and I work directly with Dean Anderson. We are located in Building 119 here on Central Campus. And I was asked to talk to you a little bit about academic student issues, not the disciplinary. Those are handled through Mariceli Vargas in Student Life, and that falls under Dean Starkey's area, which is Student Success. To give you an idea, as of February 1st, we'll be addressing all the issues, academic issues related to Central Campus courses, service area, and also online courses. So if somebody is somewhere in the continental U.S. or overseas, and they're taking an online course, any of those issues are addressed by the two of us also. During fall of 20, those three areas had a total of approximately 18,667 enrollments. So there's lots of room for issues that we need to resolve. What kind of academic issues do we normally see? And I just give you a small idea of all the issues. I will not go into all the detail because there's such a variety of issues. The first one is student reinstatements, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Refund requests. We had several students in the spring semester requesting refunds because they were not able to make the transition from lecture to SVL. They just said they cannot work on a computer. That's not their forte. They're not technically inclined, and they just chose to withdraw from the course and get a refund and attempt later on again when we're face-to-face and you know, giving them an opportunity to be successful in the course. And that was probably a wise choice on their part if they know they could not handle it. We also see a lot of complaints from students about grades. Grades, obviously, to students is the number one issue. Maybe the grading is unclear. Grades were entered incorrectly. course requirements in general were not outlined specifically, and they were confusing to the students. We have one case that seems to be coming up all the time where students are required to complete discussion boards, but unless they submit the discussion board and 3 responses to other students in the course all together as one, none of it is graded. There will be no grade. So that can be very tough on students, and they will contact us and complain about it. Other issues are not getting answers to emails, not responding to messages. We had students before who were very sick, and they communicated that to the instructor, and the instructor was not accommodating. We had a student who had brain surgery. We had documentation showing that what happened specifically, how much time they spent in the hospital, but the instructor still would not work with the student. That was very difficult, and it was elevated to our level. We have concerns from faculty about students, as Dr. Wade was talking about plagiarism, collusion, and cheating. He was showing his little answer key, and yes, we had that student who sent in an answer sheet that looked quite different than the one that she held up. So at that point, it was elevated to us, and we had to look at each and every line and let her know, hey, this is definitely altered. It does not look the same, and we had to render a decision. And it was so obvious that we had to concur with the department. There was just no question about that. I think the student was fortunate. The student received a 0 on the exam rather than a 0 for the course. So that student was actually fortunate in that case. Cases can be even more difficult when they have other accreditation requirements, such as the nursing department, such as EMT, paramedic, histology. Those become very complicated and very difficult. I have to say one thing, that the nursing department is definitely one of the departments with the best documentation. If you want to see documentation, definitely the nursing department has it. But they have to comply with other rules from the Board of Nursing. Sometimes we have students who are in the last semester and they had issues with their clinicals, and we have to render a decision. So as you can imagine, those are very, very difficult to make. Why are we talking to you about academic student issues altogether? Well, as you can see with the numbers, we do need help. We really, really, truly need help, because a lot of the issues should never come to us. It should be resolved at the instructor or the department level. Some of the things that you can help us with is by updating your syllabus. The syllabus is your contract with the student. It has to be clear, it has to be precise, it has to be accurate, and it has to be updated before classes start. We get sometimes complaints from students who say, you know, I'm logging into my class and nothing is updated. It's still from the last year. And that's just not what we would like to see. So if you can make sure that everything is updated, all the exam dates are listed. We had exam dates. We had an instructor who had an exam date listed as, let's just say February 21st, but the actual exam was supposed to be on February 12th. So when the instructor wanted to give the exam on February 12th, the students were not prepared, and it was not their fault. It was an error on the syllabus. So be very careful when you update your syllabus that everything is correct. It is also the first document that we want to see whenever we receive a complaint about grades. Number 2, I would like to talk about communication, and Dean Anderson just mentioned communication is so important when it comes to students. The more you communicate with your students, the more comfortable they will feel to talk to you about some of their personal, and when I mean personal, you know, if somebody in their household is sick, if they're sick, if they need to go in for a surgery or so, they want to talk to you about it. And at that point, just try to accommodate as much as you can. We're not asking that you change a grade or so, just give them an opportunity to work with the student and maybe give them an incomplete if you have documentation. Attendance. We are required to keep attendance anyways. For dual credit students, and many of you have dual credit students in your classes, the 9 o'clock time slot is very important. Make sure to keep attendance. But another reason why I'm bringing this up with the academic student issues is that we had cases before where a student thought that their tuition was covered, but actually to find out they were about $20 or so short. It was a small amount, and the student was dropped out for non-payment. If the instructor would have kept attendance on a regular basis, the instructor would have noticed that the student is still sitting there, but they're no longer on their roster. So at that point, the instructor could have informed the student and said, check with the business office, see what's going on. There's something just not quite right. You're not on my roster. Let's go ahead and find out what's going on. So at that point, you can help the student with that and see if the student can be reinstated. Try to complete your early alerts as much as possible. Early alerts, you should get some kind of a notification at about 33 or 66% and 66% of your class from student success. And they're pretty easy to complete. You just notify student success and let them know if there is a student who either does poorly in your class with poor grades or is not participating at all, is lacking attendance, whatever the case is. You can use those retention alert or early alerts at any time throughout the class, and the Student Success Center will help and get in touch with the student in addition to you obviously get in touch with the student also. The biggest area of where we would need help is with cert roles. Number one, if you notice that a student is not participating, and we all know that students have to complete participation requirements at the beginning of the course. If you notice that a student is not participating and cert date is coming up, you might want to try to contact the student. Is it through Eagle Mail? But we all know that students are not checking their Eagle Mail as much as we would like to. Maybe you have an alternate email that you could correspond with the student, or even call the student and just let them know cert date is coming up. I will have to drop you if you do not meet your participation requirement. For face-to-face and SVL courses, logging on into the class is sufficient, but for online OSL courses, it is not. And unfortunately, a lot of students, when they're specifically OSL courses, they're, which is self-paced, they're under the impression that logging in can be at any time. So maybe 3 weeks later, they're busy doing something else. But that is not true. It just means that they still have to go ahead and work in the class continuously at their own pace, maybe in the evenings, in the mornings, whenever they're able to access the course. But they don't have to log in at a specific time. And students are confused about that. When cert roll comes around, it seems like that we have two major areas and major issues. The first one is that students who are not participating are not dropped. And then we have those students who are participating but are dropped in error. The students who are not participating at the end of the semester will receive a grade of F. And we had it several times that students contact us and they said, well, I was in the course, I did not log in, I did not withdraw, I did not drop, I didn't do anything. But it's CTC's policy that on cert date, students who have not participated should be dropped from the course, and that is correct. So at that point, we have to submit a memo to have the student's grade removed, and then a refund issue. And now we'll go ahead and talk about memos here in just a second. The second part, marking students as never attended, that unfortunately happens quite a bit. And we want to make sure that we really truly minimize those issues, because that's something that just really should very rarely happen. So let me tell you a little bit about what the memos require. First of all, Whenever a student reports that they were dropped from a course and it comes to us, the first thing we ask them, have you talked to the instructor? The instructor will need to talk to either the online manager if it's an online course and inform them, and then the online manager will need to contact the department chair. The department chair will need to complete the reinstatement memo or the drop memo in that case, but let's just talk about reinstatement. So the department chair submits the reinstatement memo to Tracy Lemcooler, who's the manager in accounts receivable, for a financial comment. Tracy will place that comment and she will go ahead and forward the reinstatement memo to us, and we will approve it, send it to Dr. Ady, and then she will approve it and send it to Mr. Yiannopoulos. And once he concurs, then we can go ahead and forward it to Mr. O'Donovan, the registrar's office, who will then add the student back in class. If it's an online course, the student still has to be added back into Blackboard as well, which is another layer, another a little bit longer time. It's pretty quick, but still, altogether, we have seen it where reinstatement memos can take a couple weeks or so. Those are times that the student who has completed the work are sitting out when they shouldn't. And they're missing assignments, they're missing due dates at no fault of theirs. Now, we also had students at that point who said, you know what, I missed too much, and I just want to go ahead and get a refund, which obviously we want all of our students to be happy and successful, and we want them to be successful in the courses that they registered for. So in that case, we still might have to go ahead and give a refund, and then hopefully they will register for the following semester. The other cases that we have when it comes to grades, when it comes to actual complaints about faculty, are handled differently. Again, a lot of times we get cases where a student says, you know, I was in the hospital, I have documentation, I try to work with my instructor, but my instructor did not work with me. So if that's the case, the instructor needs to inform the student in writing and let them know your decision, whatever the decision is, that the grade will stand, whatever it is. And then in the memo, it should say where they can appeal. If it's the online course, it again goes to the online manager. If it's a face-to-face course, it goes directly to the department chair. If it's an online course or any course that requires Blackboard, we need printouts, reports. When did the student log in? What was the communication between the instructor? A copy of the course syllabus, anything and everything that we can get from Blackboard to make a better decision. Once the online manager concurs or with the instructor or concurs with the student, a decision has to be rendered in writing again. If the decision is to concur with the instructor, the student again has to be informed how they can appeal to the next level, which then would be the department chair. Again, the department chair has to review everything, contact and talk to the student just to make sure that everything is clear and understood perfectly, and then inform us as well and give a decision to the student as well. We get quite a few student complaints, so by the time we receive everything, we hope we have the full packet, all the reports that were available, copies of the communication and the decisions from each level. We will then talk to the student. We can call them in, and sometimes we have to talk to students 2 or 3 times. Sometimes we have to get additional information from the instructor. Sometimes we have to contact the department chair, get additional research documents, and so on. So it can be quite time consuming. It is even more time consuming if it is a complaint that comes through nursing or EMT, because there's this other level that we have to go ahead and research. And as much as possible, we just really would like your help to keep these issues at your level as much as possible. What other impact can have some of these errors or not accommodating students have? Well, number one, if we're looking at the student who has been dropped at no fault of their own, that student may be very disgruntled. They might not want to come back to CTC. They might tell their friends, don't go to CTC. So we're losing students, we're losing income. If you're just looking at the time and effort that was spent by a great number of departments, if it's about reinstatement or if it's about other academic issues, there are just so many departments and individuals involved, and we would just really appreciate your help in that. You might have seen negative comments on Facebook. That's obviously nothing that we would like either. And altogether, it just puts a negative light on CTC, and we want all of our students to love CTC and be happy with their experience here. If you need additional information about academic issues or disciplinary issues, have a look at the faculty handbook. That gives you a little bit of information, but probably the best resource is the student handbook, which is available online. Or ask your online manager, your department chair, or if you want to, you can go ahead and contact us as well. Dean Anderson, do you have any input?
No, not really. I think you did a good job covering everything. I just would like to see more of our student issues resolved at the department level if it's possible. I know that the appeal goes through us, but really, and we're not kidding, it's just Kirsten and me, and we're handling all the online complaints worldwide and all the central campus complaints and anything that's appealed out of this service area. And so we have, she probably already said this, but we have about 15, maybe during the busy periods, 15 new complaints a week. And then we have those that are rolling out over months that we have to keep track of. It's a lot. So if the issue is big and you can't resolve it at the department level, then okay, then it should come to us. I mean, we're the appeal. But sometimes the nature of the problem is so small. We're like, what? Why did this come up here? Couldn't you all have solved that? So just think about that, because we're getting more and more swamped, especially when Mark leaves the end of January. It really will be just the two of us trying to handle all that on top of everything else. So, yeah, see what you can do. That's all we asking. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kirsten, you did a good job. Any other questions? Okay. So next we have Dean Starkey. She's the Dean for Student Success and Persistence, and she's going to talk to you about the trials and tribulations of COVID on her office because she has a lot. Ready, Julie?
Yes. Thanks, everybody. I'm not going to bog you down too much. I just want to give you a few highlights. Just a couple things. You will be getting an email from SSP regarding tutoring and how to hook students up. Obviously, we aren't the only place that tutors. There's so many great options on campus. You'll also get information, a resource list from us that we always provide out, so be on the lookout for that. A lot of people have already mentioned the retention alert, so please, please, please get those submitted. You heard Dr. Garrett's great news about the QEP and that we kind of passed, and I'm like, woohoo! We are transitioning the FAST to something else very quickly, very, very quickly, and we're going to be using the alerts for a big part of that. So again, if you can help us, Jan and Kirsten have told us about a problem. If you work at an ISD or if you're a student in ISD, that there may be an issue. We are working through all of that. So we acknowledge all of that, and we are quickly digging in and trying to get all that taken care of. I do want to thank those faculty that are going to jump in and help us on Thursday with new student orientation. It is all virtual. This will be our third go round with a virtual, and it's getting bigger and better every step of the way. So thank you to the faculty who are going to present so many of the sessions. Dr. Garrett mentioned the career clusters. We couldn't have made those happen without you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But also you guys jump in and you do our student, from a faculty perspective, what it takes for students to be successful. You guys jump in and talk to a lot of them about Blackboard and different things like that. And again, we thank you so much for being partners with us in that program. We just couldn't do it without you, and thank you. And, that I just can't thank you enough. And then the other thing is that we have Welcome Week that starts the following week. We have all kinds of neat things. Again, everything is virtual. I think we're getting better as we go along with trying to figure out how to make that event virtual. There is going to be the link is going to be on the website so that you can see all the amazing things that we are trying to do for the students, but we're still trying to meet the same goals of Welcome Week in terms of teaching them about resources and getting them to know one another. One of the big things is we want them to get to know faculty. And so thank you for all of you guys that did 2 Truths and a live video. There were some awesome ones. So I hope everybody will check out social media over the course of the next 2 weeks and check those out because they are really, really great. Thank you, thank you, thank you for doing those for me for the students. It's been awesome. So let me jump into COVID-19, not a fun thing, but let me say thank you for everything that you do, helping us manage the student COVID-19 reports. I just kind of want to go through the process because we kind of got thrown into this in June when it became, okay, we're all back and we're back. Some of us are back on campus and this is how we're going to do it. And we have to have a process, and we just kind of got thrown into it all. And definitely departments and programs and classes get hit the hardest with it because of how many times we have to close a class down. Certainly, a positive result is sometimes easier to deal with than the exposures, because the exposures, we don't know how serious they could be, and so it could impact us closing and classes down. We've gotten to be really good friends in SSP with the different departments that actually have an on-campus component to their classes, because those are the classes that we end up closing. So your health professions area, industrial tech, child development, fine arts, and it's just crazy. But thank you for everything and for your understanding and patience as we work through this. I did kind of want to work you through just so that you know what we need, because I know there has been at times some frustrations. If a student reports to you that they have a COVID positive test, or they've been exposed, there is a student self-report form through eForms that they need to complete, and that gets them into our process. You as a faculty will not be able to see that form, because as faculty and staff, we also have self-report forms if we are exposed or have a case, and they're very similar forms, and so we didn't want to confuse that. So a lot of times we run into faculty or trying to help a student find it, and they say, it's not there, I can't see it. Well, no, you as a faculty will never be able to see that form. I promise you it's in students' eForm or eTrieve box. It is there. If they are having any kind of issues getting through, for instance, continuing education students, they don't have an email address, and we've had a couple of other programs. SSP will work with those groups individually and help them through that. But if you have a student that can't get to the form, all you have to do is send them to us and we will work them through. It's a very common thing that we do to get them through that. Students have to submit the form if they've been exposed or they have a positive. I tell this to faculty, even if you're teaching in an online class and a student reports it, you should encourage them to submit the report. The reason is really twofold. Number one is if we have a student that's in an online class who lives locally or regionally, we are supposed to submit that student for contact tracing. And so if you could encourage them, you don't have to chase them down. You can just say, hey, this is the form we need you to submit. Most of those students still decide to participate in the class. But if there is an issue, then we help them and communicate back with you with what some of those issues might be. And that is really the second reason why, if you're teaching an online class, not just a class with an on-campus component, that you really should have them fill it out, is if there is an issue and you need to get documentation or you need support for what we're doing with the student, is it a legit issue? We can help you and tell you what we know about that and what a student needs. We have had a couple of students who, particularly on the online, who didn't know to submit the form, and maybe they thought they were going to be fine. They tried to do the class, and then they realized they really weren't feeling good, had to take about a week or so off. By that point, they were really behind, and it just becomes a snowball. And so then the faculty member was like, are they still COVID? Are they not? And so that we will go in and work with the student even after the fact and have them submit the documentation to us. And if they need accommodations from you, we will try to determine what it is they're asking for and then reach back out to you as the faculty to say, hey, can you work with the student? We don't tell you what to do, but we do confirm that it was a legit issue and this is what's going on with the student. We do ask that you try to work with our students, and it's really because of student success. If we can keep a student enrolled in a class and working forward towards completing that class, that's what our goal is. So we do try to be as compassionate as possible in this process. I know sometimes it gets frustrating, but that is what we will ask you to do as best as possible. Like I said, we don't sit here and tell you what to do, but if we do find that it's a legitimate issue, we ask that you try to work with the student just to see what maybe you can do. But we will be the clearinghouse for that to tell you what needs to happen. If you are in a situation and your class is meeting in person, there is a likelihood that at some point you're going to have a COVID case and we're probably going to shut you down for a little bit. That's just the reality and exposure case. If that is the case, a student that has the positive case needs to immediately submit a self-report form. You as the faculty and staff that are working with that class, you will need to submit a self-report form too. That goes to HR. HR and SSP, we work very closely on all these issues together, but we'll need everybody to do that. I will also need a class roster with email address of every student within 2 hours of us understanding that, because we've got to quickly get out to all of those class members about what we're going to do with that class in terms of, we're calling it, we need you to go get a test, this is what we need you to do, we're your contact, that kind of stuff. So the other piece of information that we're going to need from you ASAP is where a cleaning may be required. So what classroom was affected, building number, room number, if it was your office, what that was, if it was a bathroom, if it was a hallway, just anything, any feedback that you can give us about that so that we can quickly go in and authorize plant facilities to get in and do a deep cleaning for you. What else? The big thing with COVID is that we become the students, we send, SSP sends students an email right when we become aware that they have an exposure or a positive test, and we set expectations for them in terms of what it's going to mean to get them back into class or back on campus. We do that. We try to include you so that you know what is being communicated to them. If we shut down a class, we let the students know what's going to happen with that. There are going to be times when you potentially get cleared by HR and you're being told, okay, you can start the class back up, but we have 15, 20 students that are going through the process, and it's a process. So you may start the class back up on, Monday, but not everybody is through. Not everybody has gotten their test. Not everybody has gotten through. And so it could be a couple of days before everybody is back in that class. So the most important thing I can tell you is you under no circumstance can allow a student back in a class or back in your office or back anywhere unless you have received an email from SSP that clears them. The student may send you a test result that shows that they're cleared. Everything has to come. We have to maintain it for contact tracing purposes, and you would get an email from us clearing the student saying student is cleared on this date and can return to campus. So if you have a student and for whatever reason you haven't seen that email, you can ask them, say, I know you're going to be getting an email from SSP. Can I see it? Or you can just reach out to my staff and we will get you a copy. There's 3 of us that are managing all of the student reports. I am one, but obviously I'm not the only one that's doing these. Sandy Weinert, who is my administrative assistant, is intimately involved in the process. as is Victoria McGee. So you could get emails from any one of us explaining, but we're in constant contact about all of it. But that's how we work on it. And it's also important that you know is sometimes we have situations where Jackie Thomas in HR might deal with a student issue, particularly if it's a student employee. And so we do have a lot of overlap and cross that happens with all of these cases. I know that the biggest frustration is getting students back in class, those that have to sit out. And I know it's frustrating for you, for faculty, particularly when you have a class and it's canceled, and then 10 days later we have another situation. We have to suspend it for 3-4 days again, and it just keeps going. And I get the frustration, but I thank you for being patient and working with us. It's really a safety issue, and thank you. If you ever have questions or concerns or what's going on with the student, can we move faster? Is there anything else? Just reach out to us, and we'll let you know what's going on with that. I do want to touch on two things. The vaccine. There's been a lot of talk about the vaccine, and we are going to see more and more of our students get the vaccine. Right now, it does not change our protocols in terms of closing classes down and what the requirements are. We just haven't gotten enough guidance yet from the CDC. Sometimes that they're slow to get that, but we can't move on that until we get a little more guidance on how that's going to change. Does that prevent somebody from being, having to quarantine and all of that? We just don't have enough information yet to be able to answer that for you. So right now, none of our protocols are changing yet. I anticipate that they will, but they haven't yet. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is temperature checks. I think it's a pilot program. I didn't clarify that the last go round in the last meeting. And some of the programs that have an on-campus component to them are piloting the program. I do want you to understand that if a student doesn't pass that temperature check, I think it's if they have an over 100-degree, one of the requirements that faculty or staff are being told at one of the final statements at the very end that they're supposed to tell the student is, if you think your temperature is due to an exposure to COVID, then you are required to submit the self-report form and follow those protocols that are set for you. Just because a student has a temperature, though, does not mean you tell them go submit the self-report form. They have to have had an exposure of some sort. Now, if they don't know and they want to work through us, that's fine, but I simply cannot be the clearinghouse. Just don't have the manpower for every temperature issue out there. The expectation is that they're not allowed in class, and if they had an exposure, then they're directed to do the self-report form. What else? Keeps us busy. I know at the last, Jan I think mentioned to you guys, exposure cases are by far the most challenging. We've had, I think Dr. Carter said, I think it was 36 cases. I've already processed 2 cases today. But by far the hardest are the exposure. We've done 500 plus exposure cases. And so it's very tedious working through all of that. I can tell you, though, the good news is our mask protocols, the social distancing that we ask students to practice does make a difference, because those cases where we've had a student that's positive that's gone to class, none of those students have then compromised anybody else in the class. We still have to follow the protocols. We still have to follow the procedures, but we haven't had transmission in that way. So it does show that the protocols and some of our safety measures are working. And so thank you. I tried to go through that fast. If anybody has questions or anything, please reach out to those of us in SSP. That's what we're here for. Is really my area is managing this, because God, you sit through this and you guys are already managing so much. The last thing you need to be doing is COVID. And I think all of us hope that in a year's time from now, this is off, or it's in a better place, a healthier place for all of us. So if you have questions, reach out to me, but that's that. Questions, anything? Oh, it sounds like it would be good to have a standard announcement in the Blackboard course component to tell students about the form. We had reached out about maybe doing something like that, and there was a space issue. I want you to know all students prior to every start term, everywhere, get information about about the form. They also get information about the self-check that they're supposed to do every day, and all of those things. It is built into our communication flow to students. So before the start of every semester, they receive information about that, just so that you know. But if you want to also add it and do anything, thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there a CTC policy document available starting the temp check requirement? Yes, there is. And I'm assuming that those of you that are piloting the program have received that information. But if not, I'm sure Dean Anderson can get that for you. If not, you can reach out to me and I can certainly get it for you.
I was just answering that. There's a protocol, but I don't know that there's a policy because it's still a pilot. So there is a protocol that's being used for the people that are doing the temperature pilot, but because it's still in the pilot stages, I don't know that there's a policy yet about who will. Julie, do you know anything different?
It's a pilot, and we have a written policy how we're managing the pilot. And if
the
students
protocol.
And the policy is it's over 100 degrees when they do the temperature check, and then you have a statement that they're able to go back, sit, and then come back up and do a second temperature check. Because sometimes you get overheated, and I think all of us have had some situations like that. So they get to come back and try it again. If they still don't do it, there's something very specific that you say to them. And you don't want to do it in front of everybody else. Do understand that we have some HIPAA issues here. But basically tell them, hey, you can't be in class today because you have a temperature. Your last statement is if you think your temperature is due to a COVID exposure, you do need to submit the COVID student self-report that's available on eForms and follow those protocols. And so there's a very specific thing that you say to the students. Those are the main things to know about it.
Yeah, I think you're calling it a policy and I'm calling it a protocol, but we're talking about the same thing.
We are.
So, I think there is no policy as to what departments are going to be required to do it and not do it yet.
Perfect.
Right now, it's optional because they're just piloting it with a few departments. So, but yeah, what Julie said.
I know a lot of the service areas we're doing it. Like, so anybody that comes into the academic studio, a lot of Dean Welsh's area, if you go into academic advising, if you get a student ID, they're piloting the program too. So it's not just academic departments. So
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, so next we have somebody, one of the librarians, a virtual librarian from our library staff, who will be talking about all the new and wonderful things that are available to us now. Margaret, you ready?
Margaret, you're still muted.
Yeah, I think you're on mute. You're still muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. I'm Margaret Handrow. I'm the Virtual Services Librarian at the Hobby Memorial Library. You should be seeing my screen. If you're not, please let me know. But first of all, the library is open. I mentioned that because back in the fall semester, when we went through one of the phase changes, we'd have people come in and say, oh, are you guys really open? And a lot of people think that we are closed. We are not. We are indeed open. So basically what that means is that when you come to the library, you will be able to knock on our door or telephone the number that's posted on our front doors and we'll let you in. The doors are locked, but that's only to sort of keep the ability to do our tracking when you come in. But once you're in, you have full access to all of the building, including the collection. The virtual services that the library offers, those are available through the website. So those who have, for the most part, the electronic resources, the catalog, the databases, those are available pretty much 24/7, 365. Now we do have a new service that's come out of COVID, and that's the curbside pickup. And basically what that is you'd go through the catalog and there's a little save button on each book. And what you can do is you can click on that, build a saved list, email it to us with your name, your full CTC 14-digit ID number, and a telephone number. And what we'll do is we'll pull those books from the shelves for you, check them out, and then notify you when they're ready for pickup. And we'll tell you which parking lot to go to. So this is something that we're doing, and it's proving to be very successful and helping reduce exposure both to us and to you. We also have on our website links for you to do collection recommendations. This would be for journals, magazines, books. These could be either in print or in e-formats. There's also a reserves form that you can click on the link to let us know what kind of textbooks you would like to have available for your students for limited time checkout. I did not see your question that just popped up, Dean Anderson.
Oh, it was from previously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry. I was just answering an old one, so don't worry.
Okay, so basically we can put your textbooks on reserve. If you have materials that you need scanned and maybe have on an e-reserve, we can do that through our Kick scanner. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. There's also a link for OER materials. It lists 11 teaching and learning materials that you can use without charge. The materials will often have a license information that tells how the information or the materials may be used. As far as getting assistance from the library for either reference or research, this could be for your students or for yourself. Again, you have the ability to come in person. We'll work with you. You can give us a call at 254-526-1621 or email us at referencerequest@ctcd.edu. Now, our email we monitor all the time, even during holidays, breaks, and intersessions. So even though the library will close today at 5:30, somebody will still be monitoring the incoming email later into the night. Same thing with the weekends, Martin Luther King Day, we'll still be monitoring it. We do have a text feature where you can use your smartphones to send us a message at 254-400-2275. And then we also have a live chat, which allows you to submit a question and get an immediate response back from one of the librarians. We also have a number of tutorials that are available to both you or to your students. These would be things that will help your students either with APA style formatting, and we're going to be updating that particular one because of APA 7. There are also information about the database access where students can click on the tutorial and see how they would go about accessing the databases. MLA, by the way, will be changing probably later this spring, as MLA will be changing from the 8th edition to the 9th edition. So these are all part and parcel of some of the tutorials that you and your students can access. These are available 24/7, 365. We also have a number of research study guides or LibGuides. These are topical pages that explore the library's resources, books and ebooks, databases in a particular field, internet resources, streaming videos. These can either be through YouTube or through our Films on Demand database. There'll be citation information, and some of the LibGuides will have career information. You're seeing the graphic is a sample of one for the welding technology. You can see kind of how they're set up. And we do request or invite members of the faculty, if you have ideas that you would like to see a research study guide like this created for your class or for a particular subject, or if you would like the ability to create them on your own, we'll be happy to work with you. All you have to do is let us know what you want to do, and we'll be happy to work with you. We have a bunch of seminars. When the protocols get lifted, we're able to do in-person seminars. We'll be happy to have those again at the library, in the classroom. If you're, when we are able to return to doing in-person classes, we can also beam into your class and do sort of a virtual in-classroom program. The virtual seminars can be requested to be held either at a specific time, or we can schedule it over a period of time. We have a number of recorded seminars. These are our seminars on demand. These are available 24/7, 365, and we created them specifically to meet the needs of CTC's global students. And what you're seeing is a graphic of what the student would click on for one of our recorded seminars. So we do try to keep the format to follow the regular seminars, but it will give them the same information. And one of the things that we do try to do with our seminars is to monitor or capture the output measures to see how well the information is being responded to or absorbed by students. We have a number of programs, workshops, and virtual showcases that are being done live streamed either through Facebook or YouTube. This allows us to do a global presentation either as presenters or for the audience. So this is something that came out of the COVID protocols that basically helped us expand and reach more people. Recorded versions of these programs are available on either YouTube or Facebook. Then these will be available 24/7, 365. For those of you who are actually able to come into the library, we have a faculty resource center, room 117, that's located just off of our multimedia lab. The workspace is dedicated for all faculty members, especially those that do not have a designated office space. This is especially true for like the adjunct or part-time faculty. There are 3 computer workstations. There's a little table there for workspace. We have office supplies, and if you look in the background, you'll actually see that there's a little microwave in there as well. So basically this is open as long as the library is open. Now, something that we have for those of you who are in the creative part of the curriculum, whether it's writing, art, or music, we want you to know about Byways, the Journal of Arts and Literature. These are student-submitted items. They're creative writing, either fiction or nonfiction. It could be poetry, plays, short stories, art, original art that are paintings, sculpture, ceramics, jewelry, drawings, or photography. And we've added a new category, music. This includes songs, lyrics, scores, recordings, and we'd be interested in hearing from any faculty that would like to help us with judging with this new category. Now, I was mentioning about scanning. We do have a Kick scanner. This allows you to scan documents or graphic materials that can be saved to PDF, JPEG, and MP3 file formats. The files can be saved either to a thumb drive or they can be emailed to yourself or to anybody as an attached file. So if you've got a student that has a test score sheet that they need to scan and send to you, and they do the exam at the library, they can use the scanner to scan and upload or scan the information and email it to themselves or to their professors directly. Then we do have something for the nursing and allied health students, and we are starting to see some of those come back into the library. We have an allied health room. It's a dedicated room, room 106, and we have various anatomical models that are available for checkout for in-building use. You'll see we have a full body skeleton, a model of the skin, and the human brain. That brain, by the way, comes apart, so you can actually see the interior structure of the brain, and then it goes back in together. Something else that we've come up with, this is very new, it's the Writing Center, room 105. This is a room that students can go into and receive help from a librarian. It also has 3 workstations, so they can sit down and work on their papers. If they need help with brainstorming, proofreading, grammar, punctuation, that is something that we can do there at the library. And then we'll also have in here a collection of writing related materials like style manuals. There are also 2 study rooms that they can go in if they want to have some more privacy in their little bookshelves in there as well. One of these days what we'll be doing is scheduling seminars, workshops on like MLA, APA, Chicago, both varieties of Chicago, by the way, that we can do in this room. And that'll be something that will be added as we go along. And then we also have a paper proofreading service. Now this service supplements what's available through the Writing Lab, and I believe there's also a Writing Center through the English department as well. Basically, this proofreading service is available to all CTC students. We check for grammar, readability, flow, logic. We look especially at their in-text and source citations and the style formatting. So we check all that. The turnaround time is within 24 hours of receipt of the submission. This includes holidays, intercession, and breaks. And to give you an idea, we've had people that on Christmas Eve have turned in a paper for proofreading. Christmas Day, they have their reports back. So this is something that we do all the time, even when we're closed. And then we have a makerspace. We have the ALA Read Design Studio. What this allows us to do is to import your photograph and then build a Read poster. There also is access to AutoCAD 2020 that allows the creation of 2D and 3D drawings. There's a button maker, a Cricut Explore 2, and you see little images there, Ellison dies and die cutting machine, and then also a drawing tablet. And these are all designed to meet the needs of STEM and STEAM. So this is stuff that we are beginning to develop at the library. And then lastly, this is something that's coming. There's will be some math bags and culinary tools that we will have available to students to check out and I believe take home. The math bag will include things like compass protractor, an architect's ruler, various templates for doing maybe architectural drawings. The culinary tools will be those things that are maybe like the measuring cups, spoons, beater, hand beaters, that sort of thing, that students can use in order to practice their culinary arts at home. And then the last thing that we're developing is the closed lending closet. And what this is going to do is provide students clothing that they can then wear for interviews. So if you're doing instruction on career development or career interviewing or getting ready to go out for that all-important first job interview. This is something that that your students will be able to access. We're not quite ready for it yet. Like I say, these are implemented new services that we're going to be implementing. So, Dean Anderson, that is all I have. Let's see. The tablet, are you referring to the drawing tablet? And as far as donating clothes, that is something that I can refer to the person that is spearheading that to see if we're still taking donations of clothes. Basically, when we receive clothes, they have to be taken to the cleaners and be sanitized. As far as drawing tablets, that is something that we would have to clarify maybe through Dean Purser. The drawing tablet is connected. Actually, it's like one of those all-in-one things. It's a monitor and the tablet, and then there's a keyboard to it. And we'd be very happy to have you come in and take a look at it. Okay. Anything else? Did I catch everybody's questions?
Did you answer, can we donate clothes or drawing tablets?
The donating the clothes, that is something, and the drawing tablets, that is something that's up, would have to be addressed probably by Dean Purser, as far as that goes. Again, with donated clothes, what we have to do with that is the clothes have to be taken to a cleaner so that they can come back sanitized. And again, with the tablets, that is something that I can refer to Dean Purser, and then we can email you back an answer. Basically, what I'll probably do is email back to Dean Anderson, and then she can give out that answer or distribute that answer.
Okay, thank you, Margaret.
Okay, thank you
Appreciate
very much.
your time so much.
You're very welcome.
A lot of good resources there.
Thank you.
Okay, so this last section, we're gonna wrap it up real quick. I was gonna do it a little differently, but it worked well in the last session, so I'm gonna do it the same way. I'm just gonna pose a question and then let you answer, and hopefully we don't collide. So we didn't the last time. It worked real well, and it went fast. So when SAC-COC was here, and they went to the service areas, and they visited the sites, one of the things that they asked was, how do you connect with main campus? And some people said, oh, as soon as I knew I was going to teach this course, I called and I talked to these people and I talked to these teachers and I called the department. And I mean, they really had some really good answers for SAC-COC. Others said, they didn't say it to SACs, but they said it kind of privately, that they felt that they were floundering a little bit. Didn't really connect with the department, had never talked to anybody else that was teaching the discipline that they were teaching, that they were given a syllabus and that was it. And so my question to you, and this is a brainstorming session, my question to you and to anybody that's at a site that happens to be on this session is, what are your ideas on how we can connect teachers of the same discipline with the sites? How do we do that without overwhelming the department? The departments have a lot of work on them already. But how would we connect people of the same discipline so that if they have questions or they need guidance or there's maybe you're the one that created the course and you have a certain way you would like to see it taught or things you could say to help out. But they feel, I think some teachers feel disconnected. And this is just an idea gathering session. So there's no commitment if you raise your hand and you give me the idea. I'm just looking for ideas. Okay. Yeah, Debbie.
I just need a list of who they are. I think we do a pretty good job on the ones in Texas. And so we send them our master course information. We invite them to our training sessions and everything. I just don't know who's out there in the Continental campus. And I know it probably has a lot of turnover. So it would be a list that probably each semester we need to get. But I'd like to include them. And I don't want them to feel like they're floundering out there. I was one of those, so
okay.
I'd like them to feel like they're part of the department, and definitely want them to use our master courses and what have you. But what I do right now is send Dean Hare a list, and she disseminates that out to them, and then they contact me if they have any questions. But I feel like we could do better if I had a list of who they are, and maybe email addresses so that I could, reach out to them.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Ellen.
Unmute myself. When I first started working here with Dr. Wagner, we were given mentors, even if we were part-timers. And so that way it was spaced across all of the full-timers, or it could be part-timers. And then that person had a direct link to ask questions. Also, Debbie and I have been working with, we met with Dean Hare and her Continental people to actually try to teach some classes together. Like I've been teaching with Marble Falls. We did a pilot where the teacher at Marble Falls teaches half the co-rec and I teach the other half. But we talked to, not now why everything's crazy, but eventually maybe doing more of that kind of thing. And then that way, if they teach virtually across, maybe the classes would make, because there'd be enough people in there.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Anybody else? I mean, I think some people suggested maybe a program coordinator or a faculty member could have a virtual meeting sometime during a semester. But again, you'd have to know who you are reaching out to, and that's something we don't know right now. So that's, yeah, we'd have to find that out. Yes? Norman?
Yes, I was thinking that each department definitely has an SME list that it could probably send off to the service departments or to the areas, and they can use that to contact the instructors directly. And I know in our department, and I'm sure it's in every other department as well, that we would be more than willing to set up an online meeting in Zoom or collaborate to speak to the instructor. They would have a point of contact for everything that they would possibly come across, at least I hope so, and it would make it just easier on their part to know who do I need to talk to directly.
Okay, thank you. That's a good idea. Okay, these are great. Anybody else? Nope. That's it. Okay, we're done. Thank you. It was a long afternoon, but I hope you learned something. We enjoyed seeing you. Thank you to our presenters.